Hello everyone, welcome to What If Naruto Was Son of Harley Quinn and Became League of Assassins Member Part 2. Before we start, please go support marioiale for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Naruto is a male. Chapter 7. The Offer. 9 years ago, Naruto was 7 years old. Slowly and silently, a jet-black limousine pulled into the drop-off area of one of the most prestigious private schools in all of Metropolis. When it stopped, some of the students walking toward the academy stopped and stared at the vehicle, trying to see who was hiding behind the black-tinted windows. What they didn't see, though, was the blonde-haired assassin in training, who was staring right at them. His lifeless sapphire eyes took in the surrounding landscape of the academy. However, as Naruto stared outside in a trance-like state, he suddenly received an elbow in the side, forcing his attention to the woman on his left. "What do you want, Jade?" the blonde asked his fellow assassin in training, his voice sounding bored. "It's not what I want, brat, it's what she wants," Jade quickly replied, pointing at the older woman sitting across from them. "And for the last time, call me Cheshire." Naruto rolled his eyes and looked at the woman sitting across from him. She was an elegant and intimidating woman, with long, straight brown hair that fell over her shoulders. Her eyes were a deep chocolate brown that matched her hair perfectly. Naruto also noticed how she held herself in a posture that screamed confidence and guilt over having a superiority complex. Though considering who she was, such behavior was expected, as she was the eldest daughter of Raz al Ghul. Her name was Talia al Ghul, and she was responsible for overseeing Naruto's first assassination contract. So, to play the role, she was dressed in a formal outfit that hugged her athletic body. Her part in this contract was to keep an eye on Naruto and evaluate his performance, while also ensuring he didn't mess up the contract, although she also had the role of pretending to be Naruto's mother. This was because his father Raz wanted this contract completed in a very specific way. A way that remained shrouded in mystery to Naruto up until this point. So the blonde began to pay close attention as he watched Talia retrieve a small black folder. "Looks like I finally have your attention, so let's talk about the contract," Talia began as she opened the folder and looked at the children in front of her. "He's approached the league about killing this woman." Naruto and Cheshire watched as Talia showed a small picture of a woman in her 40s. "Are you a teacher at this school?" Cheshire asked, but Talia shook her head. "No, she isn't. This woman is actually part of the Metropolis City Council," the daughter of the devil explained in a matter-of-fact tone. Naruto raised an eyebrow. "So why are we here, dressed in these stupid uniforms?" the blonde asked, tugging at his polo shirt that had the school logo embroidered on the chest. "And a better question, why is Jade Cheshire?" the slightly older assassin in training growled. "Yeah, whatever," Naruto replied with a wave of his hand. "Why is she here if this is my test from Raz?" Talia gave them both a small, fake smile. "I'm glad you asked," she began as she closed the folder. "You see, this contract must be fulfilled soon, but our client emphasized that this can't look like murder. So the father devised a complex way to kill the woman while also testing her Thelab skills." "Okay, I'm listening," Naruto replied, not wanting to be left hanging. "Look, our target is a divorced mother of one, whose daughter attends this academy. You'll befriend this girl and have the opportunity to visit her home. This will test your ability to charm and talk your way into situations, an important skill for a killer to know. From there, you'll kill the woman's daughter, while taking false evidence that I'll fabricate to frame the ex-husband for the murders," Talia explained with a small smile. "After all, it would be believable for a man to kill his ex-wife and daughter before taking his own life. So I have to kill the ex-husband too?" Naruto asked quietly. He was shocked at the thought of having to kill 2 people. Now there was a chance the number could go up to 3. Talia simply shook her head to the side. "No, you'll just kill the girl and her mother. Cheshire's job is to lure the husband to the house, kill him, and then I'll plant the evidence. After that, the contract will be finalized, and he'll look like a divorced man who went overboard and killed his family. That way, our employer will be satisfied, and will get paid more for making it look like no outside force was responsible." Naruto frowned slightly. "Grumpy, there is a way to void the contract without harming the daughter and ex-husband. So why must we do it this way?" "You're fine," Talia began in a simple voice. "I could easily go in and kill the woman and make it look like she choked to death on her own saliva. However, this is more than just a Thelab contract. This is a test for both you and young Cheshire, and my father wants it done his way. He wants to see if you have what it takes to kill someone, while also testing your abilities to follow complex orders without fail. I understand, Lady Talia. How should I approach my target? Cheshire asked respectively. After we drop the lab off at the school, you will find and follow the ex-husband. You will study his every move and formulate a plan to lure him to his ex-wife's house. Of course, you must coordinate with the lab, as you must kill all 3 people together. Talia explained before something outside caught her attention. Well, your target is here in the lab, so make a friend. And remember, don't let me or my father down. Naruto looked out the window and noticed the woman he was hired to kill. She was kneeling, fixing the hair of a little girl, whom he could only assume was her daughter. They seemed so happy and undeserving of the fate that awaited them. Why do we have to do this? Naruto asked quietly. They don't deserve to die, can't we just dash? Silence, the lab! Talia shouted loudly as she glared down at the boy. You're an assassin who kills whoever you're paid to kill. You don't ask questions unless they help you complete your contact. So get out there and do as you're told. Naruto gripped the limo doors tightly and bit his lip. He debated confronting the woman, declaring that what they were doing was wrong. Though he didn't, Naruto took a hard drink and opened the door. Yes, Lady Talia? Naruto murmured in a low, docile voice, taking a few steps out of the vehicle. Talia smirked before giving the blonde a fake-eyed smile and a friendly laugh. Have a great first day at school, honey! Talia shouted loudly, shifting into her temporary role as his mother. Naruto took one more look at the 2 women in the vehicle before closing the door. Then, as he watched the limo drive away, he turned his eyes toward his target. Naruto still didn't know if he had what it took to complete this contract. However, as he slowly walked toward the target's daughter, the assassin in training knew one thing. He was walking down a path from which he could not return. Present day, Naruto headquarters. It's been 2 weeks since Naruto and Raven's first date. Since then, the 2 young men had gone on a few more dates, and honestly, Naruto was starting to develop serious feelings for the heroine. They weren't currently an official couple, but they behaved like one in almost every way possible. Though when Naruto wasn't busy trying to win Raven's affections, his alter ego The-Lab was busy taking down criminal operations within Jump City. Of course, this meant Naruto was dropping bodies left and right every night. However, in addition to spending time with Raven and fighting crime in his search for Mizuki, the latter of whom he has yet to find, Naruto had also been training with his partner Shikamaru. They would take turns teaching each other, such as Naruto teaching Shikamaru how to defend himself in a fight, while Shikamaru helped Naruto gain better control over his powers. Currently, it was Shikamaru's turn to help Naruto work on his powers. So that's why the 2 teens were standing in their base of operations, both staring at a strange machine with different expressions. Naruto was confused as he looked at the strange machine. It was a large contraption, with dozens of flashing lights and computer screens. It also had a seat and 2 metal rods sticking out like bicycle handlebars. Honestly, it looked like a half-baked machine Shikamaru had prepared the night before. Okay, you got me. What the heck is this thing? Naruto asked with a small laugh, as he walked around the machine for a closer inspection. Shikamaru placed his hands on the machine and gave the blonde a proud smile. This is a little beauty I prepared to help you control your powers, the black-haired teen explained. Well, to control your ability to use lightning, not wind. I decided mastering 1 at a time instead of 2 would be more effective. Naruto nodded. Okay, sounds good. How exactly does this work? Shikamaru pointed at the machine's seat. The concept is simple. You take a seat and place your hands on those handlebars. They're actually lightning rods, and you'll feed them electricity with your powers. Naruto raised an eyebrow. And how will this help me? The blonde asked, slurring the end of his sentence. Shikamaru rolled his eyes. Okay, so this machine records the amount of lightning you're producing. So think of this like a marathon runner jogging to increase their stamina. Though, instead, you're putting your lighting into the machine at a steady rate to increase your ability to use your powers. The goal is to be able to control your lighting at a steady rate, while being able to control the amount of lighting you release from your body. After I feel like you have a good handle on using your powers, we'll move on to incorporating your powers into combat scenarios. Naruto blinked. That's great. Yeah, it's almost like he has a genius-level IQ. Shikamaru replied sarcastically. How could I forget? Idiot. the blonde assassin asked, muttering the last part under his breath. Shikamaru shrugged and walked over to where Naruto stored his gear. Who knows, you're a bit of a fool, Shikamaru began, earning a grunt from Naruto. But before we train today, I have some good news. I finished the upgrades to your suit and equipment. Naruto leaped forward, his interest piqued. All right, let's see what you have for me. Shikamaru stopped in front of a large black box and opened the lid. Then, before Naruto could walk forward to investigate, Shikamaru grabbed a large weapon from the box and threw it to Naruto. A chikuto? Naruto asked as he held the straight-edged sword in his hand. So you're familiar with that type of sword, right? Shikamaru began before gesturing with his hands. Go ahead, draw it. Naruto did as instructed and drew the sword from its black scabbard, revealing a clean, sharp blade. It also had a long, glowing green line running down both sides of the blade. What is this? Naruto asked, inspecting the blade. It looks like some kind of crystal encased inside the blade. Well, you gave me nearly unlimited resources with your family's money. So I went a little overboard with the upgrades, which my friend is kryptonite. In case you ever run into the big man. Shikamaru explained in a casual voice. Naruto grinned and ran through a couple of quick sword stances, testing how the new sword felt in his hands. I like it, the blonde vigilante admitted as he sheathed the sword. What else do you have? Shikamaru smiled and took a compound bow from the box. A new bow made of carbon fiber. It's lightweight and has a stronger draw force than your previous bow. Shikamaru explained as he tossed the bow to Naruto. I also personally designed over 30 different trick arrows for a variety of situations. Naruto grinned from ear to ear as he felt the bow in his hands. He loved his old bow. However, this new one felt much better in his hands. Okay, maybe you were right about these upgrades. I like what you've done so far. Naruto began before moving toward the box. What else do you have for me? Shikamaru laughed. His partner was acting like a little kid at Christmas. The only thing I have left is your suit. A feat I'm very proud of, if I do say so myself, he admitted before reaching into the box. It's bulletproof, waterproof, heat-resistant, and cold-resistant. Besides being very flexible, it allows for plenty of movement while wearing it. Naruto stared with stars in his eyes as Shikamaru handed him his new outfit. It was similar to his old League of Assassins uniform, but looked more modern and metallic. It also sported new pockets and straps for storing spare arrows, knives, and other weapons. One thing Naruto noticed was missing two things. The new outfit had a hood to hide his hair, but lacked a mask and quiver. Where are my quiver and mask? I need to hold my arrows and hide. Naruto began in a slightly disappointed voice. Shikamaru nodded. Here's your quiver. The teen began before pulling out a metal-shaped container, which held a display of small flashing lights. It's a computerized quiver I created that selects arrowheads for your trick arrows depending on your situation. You control this quiver with a small control mechanism on your bow. That's amazing, you really are a genius. But what about my mask? Naruto asked, earning a smile from Shikamaru. That brings us to the final piece. Shikamaru revealed as he took a black mask from the box. This mask has a built-in device to disguise your voice and night vision goggles integrated into the mask's vents. Naruto took Shikamaru's mask and smiled. It was a simple black mask with a bit of flair. This, of course, gave Naruto an idea. It's cool, but I think I'm going to paint his face like a red fox. Thelab means fox after all. I think it's fitting, Shikamaru shrugged. Do what you want, it's your suit now. It's not like I spent endless hours on it or anything. Naruto laughed. Thanks, partner. I appreciate everything you did, whatever, blonde troublemaker. Shikamaru replied casually. Let's get to job training, so put away your toys. Naruto nodded and put on his new gear. Okay, but before I forget, I'm leaving for Gotham tonight. I'm going to visit my mother and offer Jade's sister the opportunity to work with us tomorrow. I see, do you think he'll join us? Shikamaru asked, before taking a seat at his computer. Who knows, but I promised Jade I'd at least try. Naruto replied in an exhausted tone. So we'll see soon, Titan's Tower. Today was a normal morning at the Teen Titans house. Beast Boy and Cyborg were on their couch playing one of their favorite video games. Meanwhile, Robin watched his two best friends from the kitchen table. The leader of the group was splitting his attention between his two noisy teammates, and the newspaper in his hands. Hell, looks like Wally's okay, Robin muttered softly, as he looked at the grinning face of Kid Flash standing next to his mentor, Flash. I really miss that idiot. I hope he stays out of trouble. Although I wonder how Speedy and Aqualad are doing too. I really need to meet up with those guys, it's been too long. Robin thought about his old friends for a moment, but the voice of someone special to him caught his attention. Good morning, friends! Starfire's cheerful voice shouted happily as she floated into the room. Beast Boy and Cyborg raised their hands, waving to Starfire. They quickly lowered their hands and returned to their game. Robin, on the other hand, smiled as he watched the girl who had captured his affections fly toward him. Morning Star, how are you? Starfire clasped her hands and giggled playfully. Guys, you won't believe what I saw last night, the alien princess began before looking around the room. Then, when she saw the coast was clear, her smile grew even wider. I think our friend Raven is doing the courtship dance. Robin looked at Starfire with a confused look. Even Beast Boy and Cyborg looked away from the game on the screen and looked over their shoulders at Starfire. Try again, Starfire. Beast Boy began, not understanding Starfire's strange command of the English language. Yes, Star, what dance are you talking about? Ray doesn't dance, you know that. Cyborg added. Starfire shook her head. But I saw her sneak into her room last night. She wasn't wearing Raven's normal clothes, she had Raven's goo on her face, and she smelled like flowers. The alien superhero explained poorly, further confusing Cyborg and Beast Boy. It means Raven wasn't dressed like she normally is, and she had makeup and perfume on. Robin translated, before raising an eyebrow. Are you suggesting Raven has a boyfriend, or at least is dating someone? Starfire nodded, causing the other three members of the Titans to gasp. No way. Beast Boy gasped. Raven dating? No way, I'm with BB on this one. There isn't a guy alive who has the moves to earn a date with Raven. Cyborg added, but Robin shook her head. I don't know, guys, Raven's been disappearing a lot in her free time. Also, has anyone noticed recently that she seems happy? Robin asked her friends, getting them all thinking. All the evidence points to one thing, there's a kid, and she's keeping it a secret. Beast Boy fake pouted. Why would he keep secrets? We're his friends, shouldn't he tell us if he's dating? The green-skinned hero asked, his voice sounding a little annoyed. Maybe she's afraid we won't approve of the guy, or maybe she's protecting him. Cyborg tried to reason. After all, we're heroes, so someone might try to hurt the people we love to get to us. So maybe she wants to keep the relationship as private as possible. Robin nodded. You do bring up some good points, Cyborg, but considering how private Raven is, she probably doesn't want to share her love life with us. But are we going to find out what's going on? Beast Boy asked. Cyborg sneered. Hell yeah, BB! The half-man chuckled before moving his hand to punch. Robin rolled his eyes as he watched the two fists bump and laugh. Guys, shouldn't we respect Raven's privacy and leave her alone? The boy wonder asked. Beast Boy, Cyborg, Starfire, and Robin exchanged glances. Each came to a conclusion about whether they should give Raven some privacy. Nah. The four of them muttered in unison, as they all wanted to know what was going on with Raven. So, what should we do, friends? Starfire asked before looking toward the door. Shall we wake Raven up and ask her? Absolutely not. The three boys practically shouted together, causing Starfire to look at them with a confused look. But why not? The girl asked innocently. Robin stood up and grabbed Starfire's, then led the girl to the couch for a quieter conversation. He didn't want Raven to hear what they were talking about. Listen, Raven obviously hasn't told us for a reason, and knowing her, she won't tell us if we ask. In fact, she'd probably get mad at us. Robin explained quietly. So we'll have to be a little more clever with this. Beast Boy nodded. We have to start following her when she leaves the tower. I agree with BB on this one. Cyborg began before typing on his wrist. I can set up an alert with the tower systems to notify me when Raven's communicator leaves the tower. We can even use her communicator to track her movements. That's good. In the meantime, we can beat around the bush and see if Raven slips up and tells us what we want to know. Robin added, causing her two male friends to nod in agreement. However, Starfire frowned at the plans her friends were making. Friends, wouldn't it be easier to talk to Raven? I'm sure she'd share things with us if we asked. Starfire tried to reason, but no one was listening. Trust us, Star, this is the best way to handle the situation. After all, you know how Raven can be. Beast Boy replied, even though he was completely wrong. Starfire opened her mouth to speak, but the sound of a door sliding open made her and the three boys freeze in place. Then, as they all looked toward the sound, they saw Raven walking slowly toward the coffee pot. "Good morning, everyone," Raven greeted in her normal emotionless tone, before starting to make herself a cup of coffee. Though when she didn't receive a response, Raven raised an eyebrow and looked at her friends. "Are you guys okay?" The four heroes began to laugh and cough nervously into their hands. This, of course, only confused Raven with their strange behavior. "We're good friends, Raven. Beast Boy just finished telling one of his funniest jokes." Starfire didn't lie so smoothly, causing Raven to nod. She didn't really care what was going on, she just chalked it up to her weird friends being weird. Even though she was in a good mood after her last date, Raven thought she should at least join in the conversation. "Well, let's hear this funny joke then," Raven insisted before slowly sipping her coffee. Everyone looked at Beast Boy, who was sweating under the pressure. The green team looked to his teammates for help, but all they did was give him nervous smiles. Why did the cow cross the road?" Beast Boy asked while scratching his head. Raven shrugged. "Beats me," the heroine replied. Beast Boy spread his arms and transformed into a green cow. "To get to the other side," he yelled awkwardly, waving his cow udder at Raven. Robin and Cyborg facepalmed at the silly joke, while Starfire did her best to give a fake smile, hoping Raven would be fooled into thinking the joke was somewhat funny. Well, that's one way to piss off Raven, Robin thought to himself. "I'll miss you, little green friend." Cyborg thought to himself, expecting Raven to send him flying for that silly prank. Oddly enough, Raven only looked at Beast Boy for a few seconds before giving a small smile. "That's not so bad," Raven murmured, a small, almost imperceptible laugh behind her voice. "Maybe you can be funny sometimes." The collective jaws of Beast Boy, Robin, Cyborg, and Starfire dropped to the floor. Raven didn't just laugh, she laughed at one of Beast Boy's jokes. Hell, she even admitted he could be funny, and that was something Raven never did. "Well, I'll be in my room if you need me," Raven explained before turning and leaving the room. The four remaining heroes remained silent for a moment, still in shock. However, their leader was the first to speak. "Okay, something's up with Raven," the brightly dressed hero said, earning nods from his friends. "Yeah, it definitely looks out of place," Cyborg added. "I mean, he laughed at one of Beast Boy's jokes." The little green-skinned hero jumped onto the edge of the couch. "I know he usually throws something at me when I tell him a bad joke," Beast Boy began before putting a hand to his chin. "What happened to him?" "Well, she seems happy, so I don't care what's going on. I just hope Raven stays that way," Starfire admitted to her friends, but they wouldn't accept it. They desperately needed to know what was going on with Raven. "We'll figure out what's going on, but for now, let's continue with our usual duties." "Oh, Cyborg, I need your help with something related to Thelab," Robin revealed, changing the subject and earning all eyes on him. "Whatever you need, Rob, I'm your guy," Cyborg replied confidently. "Good, meet me in my room later today. I recently came across some new evidence about Thelab and I'm creating a database of information. I'm cross-referencing a known Harley Quinn associate and everyone who purchased a live-action version of Jump City around the time Thelab appeared," Robin explained to her friends. "It's not much to go on, but it's a step in the right direction. Both of these leads could take a while, since the list of people I'd have to cross-reference would be in the hundreds, maybe even thousands," Cyborg explained, earning a nod from Robin. "I know, that's why I need your help," the boy wonder replied. "All right, Robin, don't worry, I'll help you," Cyborg promised, before the four heroes left to do their respective duties for the day. The next day, Gotham City, Bruce Wayne walked alone along a long, neglected cobblestone road. As he walked, Bruce looked out at the once grand landscape of Namikaze and frowned at its current state. Like the Namikaze family, their property had fallen into disrepair and was never repaired. It truly broke his heart to see this place in such condition, especially after all the great memories he had here with his dear friends and godchildren. Although Bruce kept those feelings buried deep inside, he was here for a reason. So he needed to keep his mind focused on the reason he was at the estate. That reason was, of course, to squeeze as much information out of Harley about Thelab as he could. So as Bruce approached the old Namikaze mansion, he adjusted his tie and approached the ruined building. "There goes nothing," the billionaire muttered, as he gently knocked on the front door. Bruce walked away, hoping someone would answer, knowing that Harley frequently used his old house as a hideout. However, After a few minutes and no response, he walked away. Well, there's only one other place I'd be at this time of day. Bruce spoke softly as he moved around the side of the large house. As Bruce made his way to Namake's backyard, he frowned. This particular area was where Harley used to keep her old garden before she went berserk, but now this area also housed Minato and Mito's graves. Though unlike the rest of the estate, this area was kept in pristine condition. This, of course, allowed him to spot Harley easily. The once proud mother and wife turned criminal sat beside her daughter's grave. She appeared to be reading a small book to her deceased daughter. A scene that even left the Dark Knight himself a little shaken. Harley turned the page of the little book in her hand and smiled. The little dinosaur said to his mother, "I wish I were a T-Rex so I could be big and strong." "But if you were a T-Rex," the mother began, "how would you hold me in your little arms?" Bruce slowly approached Harley as he read. "Then I'd be an Apatosaurus, so with my long neck I could look over the treetops." "But if you were an Apatosaurus," his mother said, "how would you hear me in the treetops when I told you I love you?" Harley continued in a loving voice, one Bruce hadn't heard in 11 years. "What makes you so special, my little dinosaur, isn't your fierce teeth, your long neck, or your pointy beak. What makes you special from all the little dinosaurs in the world is that you have the perfect mother for you, and that I will always love you." Harley slowly closed the book and placed it on Mito's gravestone. She then brought a hand to her lips and kissed it, before placing the same hand back on the stone. "I'll see you tomorrow, kiddo," Harley promised before standing up, but she didn't turn around. "So which brings you here?" Bruce put his hands in his pockets and looked down. "I'd like to say I'm here to see an old friend, but I could never lie to him." Harley turned around and looked Bruce in the eye. Her eyes were dry, but from the streaks of her makeup, it was obvious she'd been crying earlier. "From what I've got, my only visitors are usually B-Man and his occasional partner," Harley began before crossing her arms. "So, what do you want, Bruce?" Bruce sighed. He had to handle this situation delicately. "Well, during his previous escape, the last man involved in the GCPD ball massacre was brutally murdered," the billionaire began before pausing briefly. "Did you hire the assassin who killed him?" "Of course I did," Harley replied with a deadly tone. "He was part of the group that took everything from me, so yes, I wanted him dead." The blonde criminal raised an eyebrow. "Do you have a problem with that?" Bruce sighed. He was absolutely against killing, but he couldn't lie to himself. Part of him was glad the man was dead. Minato and Mito were his family too. So, part of Bruce was glad the man finally got what he deserved. "No, I don't have a problem with that. He got what he deserved," Bruce began quietly. It wasn't the whole truth, but he needed to get more information from Harley. "It's a shame. With King dead, we may never know who called the attack and why." "I wouldn't be so sure about that," Harley replied. Bruce smiled inwardly. He had Harley right where he wanted her. "What makes you say that?" "The hitman I hired interrogated King before killing him. He's currently in Jump City following a lead King gave him before his death," Harley explained in a casual tone. "I'm sure you've heard about the hitman on the news. He's been working for me this whole time." Harley lied, as her son was working mostly of his own volition. Bruce was pleased. He got the information he wanted from Harley. Solid evidence linking her to Thelab, but what Bruce didn't know was that Harley was playing Bruce. She wanted Bruce to make a connection between her and Naruto, as it worked with the plans the mother and son had created, which involved as many people as possible making a connection with her, Naruto, and Thelab. "I see. That gives me greater peace of mind knowing Minato and Mito will be avenged," Bruce began before biting his lip. There was still one question that had been bothering him for years. One he desperately needed an answer to. "I have one more question." Harley held her arms open. "Ask," Bruce nodded. "Naruto, you never tell me what happened to him. I've spent countless resources looking for him. I just want to meet Harley, okay?" Harley smiled. Her old friend truly loved Naruto and Mito, but considering the role he played in their lives, it was understandable. "He's alive, Bruce. I made sure he stayed safe years ago. I could be many things, a criminal and a psychopath, for example. The one thing I'm not is a bad mother." Bruce's eyes lit up with a mixture of joy, excitement, and surprise. "Where is it? Can I see it?" the black-haired superhero asked, but Harley shook her head. "Not now, Bruce, maybe someday. Just know that our Naruto is safe and sound." Harley explained in a serious voice. Bruce nodded, though he was a little disappointed. I understand. I'm just happy he's alive and well. Harley smiled and walked over to Bruce. I know you are, but let's go get something to eat before B-Man takes me back to Arkham. Prison food sucks. Bruce laughed and followed Harley. He really missed seeing the side of Harley that wasn't crazy. So he figured why not enjoy the day before he fulfilled his duty as Batman and take her back. Downtown Gotham, Naruto was currently walking through the streets of Gotham's poor district. Everywhere around him, he saw broken buildings, landmarks, and even broken people. It was a heartbreaking scene, but Naruto ignored the difficulties surrounding him. He was on a timeline, and he wasn't one to waste time. Jade said her sister and mother lived on 27th Street, in a green apartment building. Naruto muttered to himself, his eyes searching for a green apartment building. There it is. Naruto quickly entered the building and began to climb the stairs. Okay, time to find apartment 507. Naruto began as he walked past the 3rd floor. Just a few more steps. Finally, Naruto made his way to the 5th floor and found the door to Artemis and her mother's apartment. Taking a deep breath, Naruto began to think about what he should say. I really don't want to do this, but I promised Jade I would. Naruto muttered to himself, before gently knocking on the door several times with his fist. I'll get it, Mom! A voice shouted on the other side, causing Naruto to brace himself. When the door opened, Naruto smiled as he met the face of a confused Artemis Croc. The two remained silent for a moment, each waiting for the other to speak. During this time, Naruto took a moment to observe Artemis. She quickly noticed the family resemblance between her and Jade, as they were almost identical. However, the main difference between the sisters was that Artemis had long, blonde hair that she kept tied in a ponytail. Unlike her sisters, she wore a wilder, black hairstyle. However, after a minute of silence, Artemis raised an eyebrow and leaned slightly towards the door. Can I help you? The young woman asked, wondering what an attractive young teenage girl was doing at her doorstep. Naruto shook himself out of his daze and extended a hand to Artemis. I'm Naruto, he explained in a formal tone. Naruto Quinn. Artemis took the hand and made a strange face. Artemis Croc and Quinn? Like Gotham's crime queen? She asked. Naruto smiled. Something like that, he answered vaguely. But I'm here for a reason, and that's the reason? Artemis asked, not wanting to wait in suspense. Naruto looked around and noticed the coast was clear, but he didn't want to take any chances. Can we talk inside or somewhere private? Yes, come in. Artemis offered as she stepped back and let Naruto in. Thank you. Naruto began, as he walked in and closed the door behind him. Though after Naruto closed the door, he caught a glimpse of an older woman in a wheelchair approaching him. Who is this Artemis? Is he a boyfriend you haven't told me about? Paula Croc asked in a sweet tone. Artemis rolled her eyes. No, Mom, she isn't. In fact, I don't know why she's here. The blonde began, looking at Naruto. Do you want to explain that part to me now? Naruto nodded and sighed. I'm an old friend of Jade's. She asked me to come here. The assassin clarified. Artemis narrowed her eyes and placed both hands on her hips. Okay, why did my sister send you here? Because I asked Jade for help. Paula spoke, causing her daughter to turn and look at her mother. A confused expression crossed her face. What are you talking about? Artemis asked, leaning towards her mother. Your sister stopped by a few weeks ago. I told her about all the vigilante work you've been doing in your free time and how worried I've been. Paula explained as she took both of her daughter's hands in her own. I asked your sister to do something about it. Jade told me she'd call in a favor and get someone to help keep you safe. Artemis looked over Naruto's shoulder. Is this true? Naruto closed his eyes and nodded. I'm a former member of the League of Assassins, a group your sister is still a part of. While I'm currently in the vigilante game, I'm hunting down the people responsible for my family's deaths. The people of Jump City, drug lords, thugs, rapists, and the list goes on. Naruto explained as he opened his eyes and fixed his gaze on Artemis. Because of this and my ability, your sister asked me to take you under my wing. She wants me to train you so you won't get killed running around at night. Artemis stood still and studied Naruto for a moment. After a minute or two, though, a memory clicked in her head. She knew who Naruto really was, and it unnerved her. It's him, the man I saw on the news! The young woman exclaimed in surprise. You've been killing people in Jump City for weeks, I've only killed criminals, Naruto justified in response. I'm making Jump City a safer place for the people who live there. Hell, if it weren't for me, do you know how many criminals and murderers would be walking around free? The answer is a ton of bullshit, because the police and the Teen Titans don't do their jobs properly. And the world isn't a forgiving place, criminals don't change. So instead of giving them another chance to hurt someone, I put them in the ground. And now I'm giving them the chance to get trained and be part of the solution to stopping crime. Artemis stood up and clenched his fists. How can you justify fighting crime when dozens of murders have been committed? I can justify it knowing that I've killed terrible people. I can justify it knowing that those terrible people will never harm anyone again. I can justify my actions, Artemis, knowing that I could have saved a little boy from watching his father and sister be buried in the ground like I had to. Naruto shouted loudly as he took a deep breath to steady himself. I don't care if you want to join me. I only came here as a favor to Jade. Nothing more, nothing less. Artemis was a little surprised, as she hadn't expected that kind of outburst from Naruto. Though she had to admit to herself, she still thought killing was wrong. The world was better off without the people Naruto had killed. Artemis, honey. Her mother began softly, reaching over and grabbing her daughter's arm. I like that your father has done horrible things in my past. As such, I've dealt with a lot of dishonest and terrible people. Though when I look and listen to young Naruto here, I see a young man with a difficult past trying to make things right. Give him a chance. I don't kill people. Artemis began, but stopped when Naruto raised his hands. No one said you did too? Naruto pointed at the girl. I kill because it's what I was taught to do. I don't always kill, but I won't shy away from it. It's an effective way to ensure a criminal will never harm anyone again. I wouldn't expect you to kill. I would just hope you wouldn't get killed. Artemis looked down and considered her options. On the one hand, she would receive the training necessary to become someone who could make a difference, and, at the same time, help people. On the other hand, she would be a criminal, an accomplice to a murderer. Wouldn't I have to kill anyone? Artemis asked quietly, earning a nod from Naruto. But I'd have to leave Gotham and my mother. Yes, Naruto said in a simple tone. But I would make sure your mother is well taken care of. Paula laughed. None of you care about me. I'm not a helpless woman in a wheelchair. I can take care of myself. I just want my daughter to be safe. Naruto nodded. He respected the woman's strength even with her disability. I can see where Jade gets her strong personality from. The blonde noted with a small laugh before meeting Artemis's gaze. So, what's your decision? Will you come with me and make a difference in this world? Or will you stay here and get yourself or even your mother killed? Artemis bit her lip and rubbed her shoulder. I'll go with you. We may share different views on justice. However, you help a lot of people, and my sister and mother seem to trust you. So I'll train with you and be your partner. Naruto nodded and extended his hand. Partner. The blonde clarified with a chuckle. Artemis rolled her eyes and accepted Naruto's hand, knowing that working with him would be a challenge. She also didn't completely trust Naruto, as he was an assassin. What she didn't know, though, was that today was the day she made a lifelong friend she'd always have her back. Chapter 8. Familiar face. 9 years ago, Naruto was 7 years old. Today was Naruto's first day of school, which for a normal boy would be a huge milestone in his growth. However, Naruto wasn't a normal boy like his classmates. No, he was an assassin in training. This, of course, meant that Naruto was very different from the children around him. Mainly because he had been through more trauma and hardship than most people go through in a lifetime, so that meant that for a 7-year-old, Naruto had to grow up fast. So, that's why Naruto didn't fit in with kids his age, as the gap between him and normal kids was too great. They were grooming him to be a trained assassin and were busy enjoying his childhood, a luxury Naruto didn't have. That's why when his class was let out for recess, Naruto was left alone. The blonde sat alone at a small table and watched the children play and laugh. Well, to be more precise, Naruto kept his gaze on one child in particular. That was, of course, the son of the woman he had hired to kill. Interestingly, the girl seemed to be similar to Naruto in that she wasn't very social with her peers. In fact, Naruto noticed that she seemed nervous whenever another child crossed her path. She seemed shy. Naruto noted quietly, as he was compiling a short list of observations about the girl. She's also alone, which means she probably hasn't made any friends yet. That might work out well for me, since I can work my way into being her closest friend. Naruto watched as a small group of children approached the girl and surrounded her. This caused Naruto to narrow his eyes, as it now seemed like other children were trying to befriend her. Well, that complicates things, Naruto muttered softly, as having more friends reduces the chance of Naruto getting too close to the girl, which in turn reduces the chance of Naruto getting the chance to go to the girl's house. However, the children surrounding the girl began laughing and pulling at her hair. One even managed to snatch the doll the girl was playing with from her hands. This caused the girl to sob and shed a few tears, which only made the children laugh more. Naruto gritted his teeth at the scene and looked at the teacher supervising the children. The teacher seemed to be staring right into the unfolding conflict, but instead of stopping the children, the teacher just smiled and turned his head away. Seeing this action, Naruto clenched his fists and stood up. His mind completely forgotten about his mission, Naruto approached the group of mocking children. "Hey, idiots!" Naruto yelled at the group of 4 boys tormenting the girl. "Why don't you just leave her alone?" The largest of the thugs, who was a head taller than Naruto and quite plump, glared at the blonde. "Kid, do you know who this brat is?" the large thug asked, as he leaned down and pulled the girl's hair. "She's the daughter of the councilwoman who put my dad out of work." Naruto took a step forward. "Like I give a shit." The little assassin in training began, causing a few kids to look surprised when he cursed. "Leave her alone or else." The 4 children laughed at Naruto and pushed the girl away. "Kid, you're kind of stupid." The bully leader insulted them. "You're like 3 feet tall and you're alone. I won't tell you again." Naruto spoke softly, curling back to attack at any moment. The bully sneered. "If you want to play the hero, it's your funeral." The boy began before gesturing to his friends. "Let's teach him a lesson, guys." Naruto smirked as he watched the 4 boys make the first move toward him. Though faster than any of the kids present could keep up, Naruto leaped forward and punched the largest bully in the jaw. This caused the big boy to fall backward and start crying, while his friends stopped and stared at their fallen friend. However, Naruto wasn't finished, as while the remaining bullies were busy staring at their downed friend, the blonde assassin began beating up the remaining bullies. Naruto alternated between kicking, punching, and stomping the 4 thugs. They stood no chance against the boy who spent the last 2 years fighting full-fledged assassins. Naruto, however, was suddenly lifted into the air when someone grabbed him by the back of his shirt. This caused the blonde to act on instinct and turn around and punch the newcomer in the nose. Then, hearing a groan of pain, Naruto broke free and turned around, but quickly frowned. During his rampage, Naruto had punched the teacher watching over the children. He also noticed from the bloody nose the teacher was holding that it was most likely broken. "You too!" the teacher shouted, pointing at Naruto and the girl. "Principal's office now, but they dash dot." Naruto began pointing at the beaten thugs. "I said now!" the teacher ordered, as she cut the blonde's speech short. Naruto clenched his fists, intending to give the teacher a split lip to match his nose. However, when a gentle hand touched his arm, he relaxed and looked at the girl he'd saved. "Yes, sir," the girl murmured in a low, meek voice. The teacher pointed to the school entrance, and didn't say another word. Then Naruto and the girl started heading toward the principal's office. "Thanks for helping me," the girl began once they were out of earshot. "But I'm sorry I got you in trouble." Naruto looked at the girl with bright pink hair and green eyes. Once their eyes met, though, she quickly looked down at the ground. This only made Naruto frown as he felt sorry for the girl. "I don't like people who pick on others because they're weaker. It's not your fault they picked on you," Naruto replied in a soft voice. "I'm Naruto, by the way, Naruto Gul." The girl smiled and looked at Naruto. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Naruto. I'm Sakura Haruno." The now named Sakura introduced herself. Naruto extended his hand to the girl and smiled. "Well, Sakura, you've made a friend today," Naruto revealed to the girl, causing her eyes to widen. "Really?" the girl asked in a surprised voice, since because of her mother most children avoided or bullied her. Naruto laughed. "Yes, from today on we are friends." Sakura started to cry as she smiled widely. "First you saved me from those bullies, now you want to be my friend. You're like my personal hero." Naruto blinked at Sakura's statement and looked away. It hurt him a little to hear the word hero, when in reality he'd been hired to kill her. "I'm not a hero," the blonde clarified in a simple voice. Sakura laughed, causing Naruto to clench his fists. Of course I will. I bet one day you'll even protect other people like Superman does. Naruto didn't respond to the girl's statement, as it was the belief of a little boy who had no reason behind his words. Though what Naruto didn't know was that Sakura saw something inside him. She didn't see the killer and assassin he was being groomed to be, she didn't see the hero he was destined to become. Currently, it's been a whole month since Artemis agreed to work with Naruto, but since then, she hasn't done anything. Naruto had told her until he felt she was ready that he wouldn't take her out during their nights out. After all, he promised Jade he would protect her, so that's what he planned to do. Artemis, being the independent soul she was, didn't like Naruto's rule. However, she agreed with a little pain because she knew Naruto had a good reason behind his actions. Although with Naruto's rule in place, it inspired Artemis to work extremely hard in her training with Naruto. The latter had to admit that the girl had a lot of natural talent for combat. Also last month, Artemis met Naruto's partner, Shikamaru. He had been busy training with both blondes, while also building a suit and equipment for Artemis. Shikamaru and Artemis got along quite well, as neither of them ever really complained. In fact, between the three teens, they found they worked together like a well-oiled machine. Which worked out very well for their little team, but not so well for the Teen Titans, who in the past month have come no closer to stopping Naruto. Speaking of the Titans, the group of heroes hadn't just failed to figure out who Naruto was. They'd also been trying hard to figure out who Raven had been spending her free time with. Which was, of course, Naruto, who had become very special to Raven. The two teens had been spending more and more time together, and today was no different. Currently, Naruto was dressed and leaving his room, as he had plans to meet Raven for lunch. He quickly found himself in the living room of his apartment, where Shikamaru and Artemis were lounging around. Artemis was lying on the couch, lazily flipping through the channels. Shikamaru was off to the side typing on the laptop resting on his lap. You guys look busy. Naruto chuckled as he approached his friends. Artemis looked at Naruto and sighed. I don't know why you keep seeing that Raven girl. She began in an exhausted tone. I mean, what's the point? You don't plan on using your relationship against the Titans, and you're just increasing the risk of people finding out who you are. Naruto shrugged. What I like about her, it's not my fault she and I are technically enemies. The blonde replied, causing Artemis to roll her eyes and turn back to the television. Shikamaru snorted and looked up. Don't try to reason with him, Artemis. He's too troublesome, I've noticed. Artemis began before something caught her attention. Well, it looks like you're on TV again, Naruto. Naruto raised an eyebrow as Artemis sat up straight and turned up the volume on the television. It was a popular national talk show that discussed many of the current situations in the world. Currently, the show seemed to be talking about her alter ego, so there have been a lot of rumors about this Black Hood vigilante in Jump City. He's taken out a lot of criminals within Jump City, but his methods are a little questionable. The show's host began. Many have debated whether he's a hero who protects people, or just another deranged killer. Hey, I'm offended by that. Naruto complained about the television. I'm not crazy. Joining us today to talk about the Black Hood is popular talk show host Gordon Godfrey, the woman on the screen declared loudly. This was followed by loud applause from the television audience, as the camera focused on Gordon. Oh, it's this guy. Naruto muttered in a disinterested tone as he took a seat next to Artemis. I swear this asshole complains about everyone, from me to the Justice League. Artemis smiled and looked at Naruto. Don't you like publicity, Naruto? Naruto narrowed his eyes. Shut up, partner. The blonde retorted, causing a vein to pop in Artemis's head. Shikamaru chuckled and closed his laptop, then pointed at the television. Well, regardless, it seems a lot of people are interested in the Black Hood. The boy pointed. The two blondes looked at the screen and continued watching the program. So, Gordon, what's your opinion on Jump City's vigilante, the Black Hood? The hostess asked. What do I think? I think he's a bloodthirsty killer who should be stopped. Gordon declared loudly. Sure, he's killed a lot of criminals, but he also killed a dear friend of mine. An innocent man, I might add. Naruto rolled his eyes. Oh, boo-hoo. The blonde scoffed before looking at Shikamaru. Hey, didn't you do some research on that sharp jerk I killed and found out he was pretty suspicious? Yes, I hacked into some of his emails and personal files and discovered he wasn't the model citizen he was. He's sold many illegal weapons to gangs and terrorist organizations. However, that wasn't the reason you put an arrow in his chest. The lazy teenager replied. Naruto shrugged. Fair enough. The blonde began, before his eyes returned to the woman on the TV screen. Though it seems not everyone in this town hates the Black Hood, well, a lot of people in Jump City feel safer knowing we have a vigilante on the streets. In fact, crime in Jump City has dropped by 15% since the Black Hood first appeared. The woman pointed out, making Naruto smile with a bit of pride. I'd say the citizens of Jump City feel a lot safer with him. In fact, a recent Twitter poll states that 37% of the city feels the Black Hood does more to protect Jump City than the Teen Titans. The only reason crime is down is because he's killing every criminal in his path. Gordon shouted loudly. He has no respect for the law and has already killed one innocent man. How much longer before he starts killing more innocent people? I say it's about time those poor excuses for the Teen Titans cronies did their job and stopped him. Artemis rolled her eyes and turned the TV to a different channel. Man, that guy is annoying. The blonde woman groaned. Naruto started laughing as he stood up. Just wait until I let my little companion join me. I'm sure he'll have wonderful things to say about you. Artemis swatted at her blonde companion, the latter of whom simply jumped away. You're the worst, the girl accused. Naruto grinned from ear to ear and headed for the door. Oh, I know, see you guys later. Shikamaru raised a hand in the air and signaled for his friend to leave. Get us some food. I'm sick of instant ramen. Artemis nodded and crossed her arms. Yeah, I'm with Shika. For a billionaire, you eat like a poor college student. Naruto rolled his eyes and peered out of the room's exit. You guys have access to separate bank accounts with millions of dollars. Buy your own damn food. The blonde grumbled before leaving his friends behind. Artemis snorted and looked at Shikamaru, a small smile gracing her lips. Well, if he wants to be. Why don't we go get some food and spy on his little date? Shikamaru sighed. That sounds like a drag. The teen grumbled softly. But it's not like we have anything better to do. With the Teen Titans perched on the rooftop of a building, Titan leader Robin looked down at the streets below with a frown. I have a bad feeling about this, the young leader admitted. Starfire floated next to her friend and placed a hand on her shoulder. I have some patience, Robin, the girl advised, before giving her a small smile. This time will be different. Yeah, Rob, listen to Star, we got him this time, Cyborg declared, as the teen began writing on his arm. I suppose you're right, Robin replied softly. Beast Boy transformed into a small monkey and landed on his leader's shoulder. That's the spirit! The little green heroes shouted. With their eyes widened, all the Titans hit the deck and hide from the sight of the streets below. Beast Boy! Robin seethed softly. Are you trying to blow our cover? The green-skinned hero laughed nervously. Oops, my bad. Cyborg sighed and looked down at the streets below. Well, they haven't discovered us yet, so we haven't done any damage. Joining his half-machine friend, Robin stood up and sighed in relief. We got lucky. The boy wonder began quietly. If Raven knew we were spying on her, she'd kill us. In the streets below, Raven sat alone at a small table outside a large cafe. The girl was wearing a plain black shirt and tight jeans, while also sporting a small black beret and a pair of black sunglasses. This particular fashion choice made Raven completely unrecognizable as Raven, the heroine, and made her look more like a random, beautiful girl. What's taking him so long? Raven grumbled to herself, as the young woman sipped a small cup of coffee. He's 10 minutes late. Waiting a few more minutes, Raven finally pulled a small cell phone from her pocket. Then, nervously flipping the device between her fingers, she debated calling Naruto. However, before she could come to a conclusion, the blonde she'd been waiting for arrived and made his presence known by pulling out a chair and sitting across from Raven. Hey, sorry I'm late, Rachel. I ran into my roommates again, the blonde explained shyly. Raven steepled her fingers and leaned across the table. Oh, is that it? And here I thought you'd forgotten about me, the hero replied flirtatiously. Naruto smiled and reached across the table to grasp Raven's hands. How could I forget about you? Naruto asked in a soft tone. Beautiful girls tend to leave a big impression. Raven blushed at the compliment and gestured forward with her eyes. I thought you'd be late, so I went ahead and ordered your usual, the girl revealed. Naruto looked at the cup beside him and smiled. Thanks, Rachel, don't mention it, the girl replied softly. But tell me, how are these roommates of yours? Naruto smiled. He had told Raven about Shikamaru and Artemis. However, he lied and told the girl that he took them in to help him generate income, since his shop didn't make much money. They're a pain in my ass, but I can handle them. Artemis can be a challenge sometimes, but I've faced worse. Naruto explained jokingly, while at the same time swearing he heard the sound of muffled screams. Raven smiled. I'd love to meet you, Naruto scoffed. You wouldn't say that if you knew them, the blonde joked, before hearing more muffled screams. Though he chose to ignore the noise and focus on Raven. Though maybe you'll meet them someday. I hope so, Raven admitted honestly. Though I understand keeping me at arm's length. I'd be afraid you'd meet my team, Naruto chuckled and raised an eyebrow. That embarrasses me, huh? Raven laughed. The opposite, actually. Those idiots would probably chase you away. Naruto smiled and winked at Raven. Sorry, nothing can take me away from you. But I was thinking you and I have spent a lot of time together. Raven nodded. So? The girl asked. Well, I was thinking maybe it's time we put a label on our relationship. Naruto suggested in a slightly embarrassed tone. What kind of label? Raven asked softly, her heart pounding with excitement. Naruto leaned across the table and grinned from ear to ear. The boyfriend and girlfriend kind. Raven blushed and looked down. I'd like that, so that fixes things. Naruto replied in a happy tone. Raven, feeling a sense of joy, was about to speak. However, a loud explosion caught her attention. What the hell? Naruto yelled in surprise as he felt the impact of the explosion. Turning towards the source, Raven snarled in rage at the sight of 3 of Hive's children, Gizmo, Mammoth, and Jinx. They were currently robbing a local bank and causing a great deal of destruction while doing so. I really don't like those guys, Raven declared in a tone filled with anger, her eyes turning black. They have a way of always ruining a good afternoon. Naruto chuckled and looked at his new girlfriend. Well, it's a good thing you're here to save the day, the blonde joked. Raven looked at her newly tagged boyfriend and gave the boy a stern but loving look. Try to get as far away from here as you can. The girl told the boy she thought was completely defenseless. I don't want you to get hurt, Naruto smiled. I'll be fine, now go take care of those criminals. Her eyes lingered on Naruto for a moment. Raven quickly sprang into action and flew after the enraged criminals. Naruto saw this and then quickly looked toward the building across from their location. Well, are they going to stop spying and help out, I wonder? The blonde mused aloud, showing that he was aware that he and Raven were being watched by the other Titans. After all, one of their first instincts upon entering a new area is to scan the landscape. So 4 monstrosities on the roof of a building were an easy spot for him. The Titans are leaving! Was the loud battle cry of the leader of the young heroes. Naruto smiled and simply shook his head as he watched the 4 remaining Teen Titans spring into action. Man, Raven's going to be pissed when he finds out you were watching us. Though that's not my problem. The blonde then reached out and grabbed his drink, casually taking a sip. Then, as Naruto let out a contented sigh, he placed his drink back on the table and ignored all the screams coming from the terrified civilians fleeing behind him. Showing just how calm and unconcerned the young vigilante was about the superpower fight unfolding before his very eyes. As Naruto leaned back in an indifferent manner, Robin glanced over his shoulder, and for a split second, the blonde vigilante and former partner shared a look. An action that made Naruto send the hero a wicked grin, one that screamed trouble. This quick exchange ended once Robin fully engaged the rampaging villains. Then, when Naruto realized he could no longer taunt his girlfriend's leader, he decided to get up and walk away. Though he did stop to look over his shoulder, allowing him to see the raging battle. The Titans were doing relatively well against the Hive children, but it was still a close fight. Though Naruto noticed that both sides were racking up a lot of collateral damage in their battle. As cars were thrown into buildings, explosions occurred, and corpses were sent flying left and right. Maybe I should go grab my gear and throw myself into the ring. The blonde mused quietly, not in the least bit serious. Letting out a loud laugh, the blonde man walked away, but a sudden noise caught his attention. It was the soft sobbing of a little girl, no older than 7 or 8, to be exact. She was alone and very close to the raging battle, and it seemed neither side was paying attention to the girl's presence. Shit! The young vigilante cursed, while simultaneously looking up. He realized that the building above the girl was beginning to crack and collapse. Oh, you've got to be kidding! Wasting no time, Naruto ran toward the girl at his fastest speed. He then performed an acrobatic leap over a table, jumped into the air, and flew toward the girl. Sure, it's okay, I've got you. Naruto spoke in a low, soothing voice as he took the little girl in his arms. You'll be safe. Although Naruto was about to regret his words, a transformed beast boy crashed into the building from above. Thanks to a powerful mammoth throw, a blow that caused glass and cement to rain down on Naruto. Get ready, Naruto ordered, wrapping his arms around the girl and shielding her with his body. Then, he seethed with pain as a large shard of glass pierced his right shoulder. Though while he expected more painful blows, Naruto was surprised when nothing else followed. Which made no sense, since by his estimates, he should have been buried alive. So, confused, Naruto opened his eyes and looked up. His eyes widened in realization once he saw the entire building suspended by a black layer of magic. Naruto then looked to the right and saw Raven, who was frantically staring at the boy she loved so much. Naruto offered a small thanks to the hero and a confident smile, ignoring the sharp pain coming from his shoulder. After all, pain like this was nothing to a trained assassin like Naruto. He was frequently tortured in the League to develop a strong resistance to pain. Though when he heard a softer cry, his features softened, and he looked down at the girl in his arms. Are you okay? Naruto asked in a soft, caring voice. You weren't hurt, were you? The girl looked at Naruto, her lower lip trembling. She managed to shake her head though. I'm not okay, Naruto smiled. Good, the girl shook her head a little more as she held Naruto's shirt. But he hurt himself, sir. Naruto ruffled the girl's hair. Don't worry, I'm a pretty tough guy. I'm glad you're okay, but stay close to me. From the looks of it, the fights are almost over. With Raven, the heroine shifted her focus from her boyfriend and the little girl to the hive children. Her eyes then glowed red as she glared at the three villains. You'll pay. The girl hissed in a demonic tone. The black tendrils escaped her grasp and constricted the three villains. She then began squeezing the life out of all three of them with a crooked smile on her face. This continued for a few seconds before her team realized she was going too far. They then decided to stop her. Raven, calm down! Robin ordered. Starfire flew in front of her friend and looked at her worriedly. Listen to Robin, they've had enough. Yes, Ray, this isn't you, Cyborg added. Her eyes returning to their normal color, Raven threw the three villains to the pavement and floated to the ground. She then turned her back on her teammates and approached Naruto. The blonde looked at Raven and smiled. Good work, Raven, Naruto began, using his hero identity. Way to save the day. Raven smiled and leaned toward her boyfriend. Idiot, I told you to run away from danger. Don't get any closer to the action, Naruto laughed. What about missing out on being the hero who saved the girl? That's not going to happen. Raven sighed and began to remove the glass from Naruto's shoulder with her powers. This will hurt a little, the girl explained. But you deserve it for making me worry. Naruto pretended to wince before smiling. I should let you know, I was never in any danger. After all, I'm dating a superhero, Raven chuckled. I wouldn't count on your little girlfriend always having your back. Naruto simply winked at the teen. I would, she's pretty good, Naruto praised before feeling a light tug on his shirt. Oh, I almost forgot you were there. How about I help you find your parents? Naruto's little girl smiled and nodded nervously. An action that made Naruto smile widely and extend a hand toward the girl. Although to Raven's surprise, the little girl extended a hand back. Are you coming too? The girl asked in an almost silent voice. Raven gave a small, awkward smile and held out her hand to the girl. Then, as the young woman stood between the couple, holding each teen's hand, the three of them walked toward a large crowd of people. Hoping to find the young woman's family, they were oblivious to the fact that they themselves looked like a small family. Though as they walked, Naruto suddenly had a devious plan inside his head. Hey Raven! Naruto began softly, gaining the girl's attention. Raven looked at her boyfriend and raised an eyebrow. What is it? You know your team's appearance on the scene wasn't a coincidence. They were spying on our date from a rooftop, the blonde explained quietly, chuckling inwardly. Raven's eyes flashed red for a moment, and she didn't question her outfit's appearance at first. It all made sense now, though, and Raven knew she was going to destroy her friend's outfit for interfering in her love life. After we find your parents and I fix you, my team and I are going to have a talk, Raven stated in an angry tone, one that made Naruto give a small, hidden smile. A few hours later, Naruto's headquarters. Taking a few steps toward his hidden bunker, Naruto quickly spotted his team standing in his way. Artemis had her arms crossed, frowning, while Shikamaru lazily stared at his friend. Naruto, noticing the anger radiating from his friend, gave her an awkward smile. "Hey buddy, what's up?" Naruto began before stopping mid-sentence. That way he could catch Artemis's first guard. "I heard the shit you said about me," the girl declared loudly. Naruto raised an eyebrow and chuckled. "Oh, were you spying on me too? Looks like Raven and I have some annoying teammates." A tick mark glowing on her head, Artemis was furious. "Why you?" she began, but stopped once Shikamaru sighed and placed a hand on her shoulder. "We weren't spying on Naruto. Artemis and I went to get some food. Then I got an alert from a program I installed on my phone," Shikamaru explained before handing the phone to Naruto. "It's tracking software I developed to help locate Mizuki. And I managed to pinpoint her whereabouts." Artemis nodded. "We were going to call your idiot, but then we saw you and your little girlfriend. So we decided to go find you instead. Then you had to get involved and almost get killed, so we came back here and waited." Naruto looked into the phone as he listened, his eyes scanning the information. "Are you sure he'll be at this location tonight?" the blonde assassin asked with absolute seriousness. Shikamaru sneered. "They found it with software I made." "Of course I'm sure." "All right, Artemis Suit, you're with me tonight." "Really again? Wait, can I come?" the girl asked in a surprised voice. Naruto nodded. "We're too close to stop the target from escaping. So they'll need you tonight, sidekick." "Go to hell," Artemis replied before walking toward a display case with a suit and weapons. "We're partners." Naruto laughed and walked over to his own team. "You call yourself that, sidekick?" Titan's Tower. The doors to the Titan's lounge opened as Raven entered the room. She then stopped where each of her teammates was waiting inside. Each member of the Titans had a serious expression on their faces and didn't seem pleased with Raven. Raven didn't seem happy with her team either. "Raven, we need to talk first," Robin began in a tone of disappointment. "You almost lost control of yourself today." Raven looked at her leader. "No, you need to clarify something. I don't appreciate you for spying on me. My social life has nothing to do with any of you." Everyone present flinched at the harshness of Raven's tone. "Crowy." "No, Robin, you can't say anything," Raven interrupted sharply, pointing her finger at the boy. "Just leave Naruto and me alone, or I swear I'll leave this team." Everyone was shocked by their normally quiet friend's outburst, especially his final declaration of leaving the team. Beast Boy took a step forward. "Raven, put it away," Raven interrupted, turning her shoulder toward her team. "I'll be in my room, so leave me alone." Cyborg watched Raven leave the room with a frown. "Guys, I think we made a mistake," Starfire nodded. "I think we did it," Beast Boy sighed. "We're idiots. Maybe we should try apologizing later once she's calmed down," Robin nodded. "Yes, we should." The team quickly fell into a small silence, but it didn't last long when a small ding sounded. "It's done!" Cyborg yelled in surprise as the teenager ran towards a computer. The other three Titans looked at their friend's random outburst in confusion. "What have you done, friend?" Starfire asked, as she and everyone else gathered around the male. Cyborg grinned and typed frantically on the computer. "A while back, Robin asked me to look for people who were buying houses in Jump City around the time our little killer friend showed up. Well, the number was higher than I expected, so I narrowed the search to male buyers and also ran some keywords based on information Robin had shared with me. In this case, one of those words was the name Harley Quinn. At the press of a button, all the Titans saw a single blonde-haired teenager appear on a large monitor. "Boy and girl, I'd like you to meet the only match I found for Naruto Quinn." Beast Boy looked at the photo and tilted his head. "Hey, isn't that the guy Raven was with?" Robin narrowed his eyes. "Yeah, he is." "What else do you have on this guy?" Starfire frowned. "Didn't Raven say to leave him alone?" Ignoring the fire stars, Cyborg sighed and pressed a button. "This guy is suspicious, Rob. His record is way too clean, and I mean clean, since there's almost nothing here. Although the biggest problem is the person who signed for the place he's living in." Robin examined the file on the screen. "Harley Quinn," the leader murmured softly, causing Cyborg to nod. "It's obviously related to Gotham's Queen of Crime," Cyborg noted as he pulled out a photo of Harley. "And if what you said about Thalab working for Harley is true, then the pieces are coming together." Beast Boy looked at Harley's picture and compared her to Naruto's with wide eyes. Why do they both look so familiar? Robin waved the boy goodbye. You saw Naruto today, and Harley is a notorious criminal. Yeah, it has to be. Beast Boy muttered quietly. Cyborg turned to his friends and crossed his arms. So what do we do? Robin rubbed his chin. We took him down, the boy wonder declared. This has to be our guy, Starfire frowned. Should we tell Raven? No, Robin declared, surprising the group. She obviously wouldn't agree to go after Naruto. She might even warn him no, we approached this killer today before he found out we were after him, Cyborg nodded. I'm on board, Ray will forgive us later. Beast Boy remained silent and continued to study the picture of Naruto and Harley. Meanwhile, Starfire only shared a small frown with the group, as she didn't like the plan one bit. Jump City docks, running frantically. With a brief sigh, Mizuki Sato dashed through a warehouse, his movements frantic. As he fled, he tried to knock over crates, tables, and anything else he could use to slow his pursuers. To his horror, though, a man dressed in black and wearing a red fox mask fell from above and cut off his escape. The vigilante swung a bow and aimed at the criminal, forcing the man to freeze. End of the line, idiot! The man began in a deep, disguised voice. You gave a good chase. A female voice from behind chuckled. Not good enough. Mizuki looked over his shoulder, allowing him to see the woman dressed in an outfit similar to the man's. Her mask was green, though, and she only held a bow, unlike the man, who also had a sword. Shadow Man, Vixen, and I have the target and are moving to extract information, the man explained through the communicator in his mask. Why you're Thalab? Mizuki declared, as the man staggered back in fear. I'm trying out a new name, call me Black Fox. The man instructed as he shot an arrow into Mizuki's leg, earning a loud, pain-filled scream from the man. Now let's talk, Arg! Mizuki cried in pain, as she fell to her knees. You were hired by someone to attack the GCPD ball 11 years ago, but instead you had James King take your place. Now tell me who tried to get on you. Black Fox screamed in absolute rage. Mizuki looked up with a scared expression. It was Slade. Slade Wilson. I owed him a huge debt, and that attack was my payment. Naruto frowned and clenched his fists. Is that so? Mizuki shook her head and clasped her hands. Absolutely. You'll let me go since I told you, right? Black Fox drew another arrow. No, Mizuki's eyes widened. Please forgive me, the man begged. I have a lot of money from my business, it's all yours. Money can't bring back those I lost. Black Fox declared before 3 arrows were buried in Mizuki's chest. Vixen looked away as the drug dealer's body tilted to the side. So we have our next target. Naruto took off his mask and nodded and looked at Artemis, who took off hers. Hopefully this is the last one, Naruto muttered as he walked away. Let's head out. I'm sure Shika is gathering more information as we speak. Artemis nodded and followed Naruto, leaving behind the warehouse full of dead and unconscious gang members. At Naruto's shop, dressed in their casual civilian clothes, Naruto and his team stood around the bookstore. Each member was silent and had a different expression on their face. Naruto seemed restless and nervous, while Artemis was nervously fidgeting. Shikamaru, on the other hand, had a calculated expression on his face. So Slade Wilson, also known as Deathstroke, is our primary target now, Naruto muttered softly. This is an interesting turn of events, Shikamaru nodded. Yes, he's a world-class mercenary, not a common criminal. Taking him down will require careful planning. That's for sure, Artemis crossed her arms. Your little girlfriend and her team have tangled with him before. Maybe you can get some information from her, Naruto nodded. Absolutely, we have to do this as smartly as possible. We're too close to the source right now to risk making a mistake. Artemis held out a hand. Well, if we work together we can take this guy down. Then find out why he called the attack on the GCPD ball, the girl declared to the group. Shikamaru smiled and placed a hand on Artemis. We make a good team. Naruto nodded and placed his hand next to his friend's. Let's do something the Titans could never do. Let's eliminate Slade for good. Agreeing to this, the team split up, but the sudden opening of the tent door caught their attention. Sorry, it's already closed, Naruto began, turning around. To his surprise, he found Raven's 4 teammates waiting for him. Naruto-Quinn, Robin began, ignoring Naruto completely. Or should I say Thalab? We're here to arrest him. Naruto raised an eyebrow and placed a hand on his hip. You've got the wrong idiot. Robin stepped forward and grabbed Naruto tightly, struggling slightly to get the boy in handcuffs. You're going to pay for all the people you killed. Artemis glared at the boy and took a step forward. Stay away from my friend. Cyborg quickly moved forward and blocked the girl. Wait, miss, you don't want to get involved. Artemis gritted her teeth and was about to lash out, but Shikamaru placed a comforting hand on the girl. He made her step back a little and compose herself. Stay calm, Artemis. We'll sort this out. Leading Naruto to the door, the Titans began to follow their leader. All that's going to happen is they'll put a killer where he belongs, Robin declared before leaving the store completely. Artemis snarled in anger. This isn't right. Shikamaru laughed and shook his head. It's okay, Artemis. Everything's going according to plan. Raising an eyebrow in confusion, Artemis looked to her intelligent friend for answers. Explain now. Follow me to headquarters and I'll explain everything. Shikamaru began, as he and Artemis began to walk away. Chapter 9. Family. 9 years ago, Naruto was 7 years old. Staring longingly out a large attic window, Naruto gazed down at the metropolis nightlife with a grim expression. His hands were shaking, and his body felt incredibly sick. Behind him, the faint sound of muffled screams and scuffling could be heard. Turning his head, Naruto saw his only true friend, Sakura, and his mother tied up and strapped to chairs. The looks of fear and betrayal were enough to make the young man look down in shame. I'm sorry, Naruto murmured in a low, sad voice. He slowly pulled out a small knife and tightened his grip on the handle. Please forgive me. Approaching Sakura's mother first, Naruto paused slightly in front of the woman and gulped. While he tried his best to regain his composure, even as Sakura's mother released her mouth, any composure he had was about to flee his body. You disgusting monster! I let you into my house and this is what you do! You're a demon! The older woman screamed in an angry tone, before she began to tremble and tried to break free. Let my daughter and me go! Dropping the knife, Naruto clutched his head, not knowing what to do. He was in a no-win situation, and the young man was starting to panic. I can't do this! Naruto declared as he began to have a nervous breakdown. I can't be a murderer! Tears streamed down his eyes, and Naruto began to breathe deeply to calm himself, but nothing seemed to work. However, a gentle hand on his shoulder was enough to make the blonde freeze. What are you doing? Jade's voice asked in a disgusted tone. If Talia saw you, she'd punish you. Turning around, Naruto noticed Jade had entered the building through an open window. Though that didn't matter to him, as he simply wrapped his arms around the older assassin. I can't do it, Jade! I can't be a killer! Naruto groaned softly. Feeling a little bad for the younger boy, Jade bent down and grabbed the knife Naruto had dropped. Do you want to avenge your family? Jade asked. Naruto nodded. Yes. Opening Naruto's hand, Jade placed the knife in Naruto's palm and closed his fingers herself. Then you must be strong, Naruto, Jade declared as she turned the boy towards Sakura and his mother. The first step is always the hardest, but sometimes all you need is a little push. With that said, Jade pushed Naruto towards Sakura, causing the blonde to stab the young woman in the heart. You monster! Sakura's mother shouted. Naruto ignored the older woman and instead watched the betrayed look leave Sakura's lifeless eyes as the girl slowly died. An experience that shattered Naruto Namikaze and created the assassin known as the Lab. Currently, handcuffed to an interrogation table, Naruto gave the Teen Titans leader a blank stare. So why am I here again? Naruto asked in a nonchalant tone. Robin glared at Naruto through his mask and slammed his hands on the interrogation table. We're here because you're a heartless killer. Naruto rolled his eyes. Yeah, you've said that about 30 times, boy blunder. Probably because you don't have evidence to keep me here. I want to call a lawyer. Oh, we have proof, Robin declared before looking to his side. Right, Cyborg? Absolutely, Rob. Besides, you already wasted your only phone call ordering a pizza, Cyborg reported in an annoyed voice. Looking at the only other individual in the room, Naruto raised an eyebrow. So, do you want to fill me in? Writing on his arm, Cyborg pointed to a small screen where an image of Naruto and his fake information appeared on the screen. Everything about you is suspicious, and all the official information about you is obviously fake, the half-man, half-machine declared. But that's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is your connection to Harley Quinn, Naruto sneered. And that's the connection? Robin grabbed Naruto by his shirt and pulled him forward. You tell us! Naruto gave Robin a blank stare, but the sound of a small fight caught his attention. This made Naruto smile and look around the two heroes in the room and toward the exit. Looks like he found out, Naruto declared in a sing-song tone. Robin looked at Naruto and lifted the teenager a little higher. What did you do? Naruto chuckled. That's what you did, idiot. With that, the door to the room was covered in darkness before slamming open. Then, before anyone could react, Robin and Cyborg were thrown against opposite walls of the interrogation room. What are you idiots doing? Raven's voice asked, as she stormed into the room. Raising his hands, causing the handcuffs to vibrate, Naruto raised his voice. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Raven looked at Robin and searched for answers. He's the killer we've been chasing, the boy wonder declared while still pinned to the wall. So leave and let me finish my interrogation. No, was Raven's firm reply. You two idiots have done enough. I'm taking over this investigation. Absolutely. Robin didn't have time to argue before Raven threw him and Cyborg out of the room and sealed the room with her magic. Naruto smiled and crossed his arms. So if they were a stupid cop and a cocky cop, that makes you a beautiful cop? Raven narrowed her eyes in annoyance and sat down across from Naruto. Let's talk now. Naruto sighed and held out his hands. Can you at least take this off? Raven rolled her eyes and flicked a finger down, causing Naruto's cuffs to glow black and fall off. Thank you. Naruto cheered happily before giving Raven a kiss. Blushing and turning to the side, Raven cleared her throat. Enough with the flirting. Tell me why Robin and my team arrested you. Because he's connected and obviously works for Harley Quinn. Robin's voice came through an intercom in the room. Raven turned around and stared at a one-way glass window, where her team was watching her and Naruto talk. You four are on thin ice, so I'd shut up if I were you. Approaching the table and grabbing Raven's hand, Naruto sighed. Listen, Raven, the blonde began softly. I think it's time I stopped lying to you. Facing Naruto and sensing his emotions, Raven stared at the boy with wide eyes. She could sense the regret he harbored inside. What are you talking about? Raven began, her voice sounding hurt. She was a little afraid of what the boy might say. I'm not who I say I am. My name is Naruto Namikaze. I'm 16 years old, and 11 years ago my mother, Harley Quinn, hid me away to keep me safe. Naruto declared to a shocked audience of young heroes. She wanted to keep me safe and alive. Outside the interrogation room, Robin was absolutely stunned. How did I not realize that? We thought he was only working for Harley, but now we also have the confirmed connection that he's her son, Cyborg nodded. She's a great criminal, so by default that means Naruto could be one too. Either that or we made a huge mistake, Beast Boy declared. Starfire nodded silently, but looked away at Robin. Did this Naruto really use his one call to order the pizza? Cyborg nodded. I saw him do it. He said my name is Naruto Quinn. I've been wrongfully imprisoned in the Jump City Police Department, and I'd like a large Hawaiian pizza. Strange, Beast Boy muttered. Back in the room with Raven and Naruto, the two shared a moment of silence, as Raven tried to process all the new information she'd been given. I've heard about Harley Quinn, the heroine revealed in a low voice. Her husband and daughter were murdered, while her son disappeared. I never disappeared, my mom just hid me. I didn't know when I was younger, but now I know why she did it. She wanted to make sure I could live a semi-normal life without her enemies chasing me. Raven folded her hands and sighed. According to Robin, your mother has connections to the killer we're chasing. I wouldn't be surprised. Naruto replied without missing a beat. Raising an eyebrow, Raven leaned back. And why do you say that? Naruto rubbed his head and sighed. She may be a criminal, but she's still my mother. We talk occasionally, and she lets some things slide. Placing her arms over her chest, Raven waited for Naruto to continue. Last time we spoke, you mentioned paying an assassin to find and kill the people responsible for my father and sister's murder. Naruto explained to a surprised Raven. I never knew until now, but I'm guessing this T-Lab you're looking for is the person Mom paid. Or your T-Lab! Robin's voice shouted through the intercom. Clenching her fists in anger, Raven's subconscious power activated and the intercom exploded. An action that made Naruto smile. Thanks for keeping him quiet, Naruto began in a cheerful voice. But what do I have to do to prove I'm innocent? Leaning across the table, Raven sighed. So your story is that you're the long-lost son of a billionaire and a crime lord, who has no criminal involvement whatsoever and is wrongly accused of all the shippers. Am I right? Naruto shrugged. Basically, if you need proof, I can always call Mom and prove my story. Raven shook her head. I believe you, so there's no need. Besides, I prefer to meet my boyfriend's mother in person, not over the phone. Even if I have to visit her in a prison cell. Naruto smiled at Raven's confidence. She'd like you, but I should warn you. My mom is way crazier than you know. Raven laughed and stood up. Let's get out of here. My team doesn't have any solid evidence to keep him other than the suspension. So I'm not going to consider keeping him here. Standing up, Naruto stepped forward and wrapped his arms around Raven. You're the best, Raven, I love you! Raven felt a surge of affection and other loving emotions pouring out of Naruto, showing the girl that the blonde held a sincere love in his heart for her. I love you too, and I'm sorry my team thought you were a criminal. I'm glad you're not the lab. Raven responded in a small moment of affection. I'm glad you believe me when I say I'm not the lab. Naruto began as he leaned down and kissed Raven on the lips. Raven was swept away by a wave of emotions like joy, happiness, and love. Though as she blissfully held her kiss with Naruto, the young hero felt something else. It was faint and difficult to sense, but the sensation was there. Regret, sadness, and betrayal were emotions that flowed deep within her boyfriend. These feelings piqued Raven's interest, and she forced herself to delve deeper into Naruto, something she normally avoids doing out of respect for others' privacy. However, once Raven got to the bottom of Naruto's emotions, she found a whole new feeling. It was as if the joyful light had gone and a dark cloud of hatred and confusion had taken over. This made Raven's eyes widen, and for the first time, she asked herself the question, could her boyfriend be lying? Could Naruto really be the lab? Grinning from ear to ear, Naruto stepped back and looked at Raven in confusion. Is something wrong, Raven? Shouldn't I have kissed you? Shaking her head to gather her thoughts, Raven was a little confused. No, it was okay, it's just. The crow's thoughts were interrupted when a green bug entered the room under the door, and Beast Boy quickly emerged in his human form. Guys, you need to see this! Ticking his eyebrow, Naruto watched Beast Boy open the door and motioned for the pair to follow him. Well, let's see what your team wants. Naruto muttered as he started walking out of the room. Yes. Raven muttered softly, her mind drifting to the possibility that Naruto really was a criminal vigilante. Though once she saw her boyfriend, she noticed the guy moving toward a television with a shit-eating grin. Then, turning her head, Raven saw her team standing there watching a news broadcast. If you're just joining us, we're showing the aftermath of a battle between a local gang and the Black Hood. A fight that ended the tyrannical rule of this local street gang. The news correspondent explained. Although many are wondering where the Teen Titans were during all of this, Raven's eyes were wide open as she looked from her boyfriend to her leader, the latter of whom was clenching his fists in anger. So, Naruto began in a slightly superior tone. Since you idiots can now understand that I'm not your boy. While you were busy keeping me here, you allowed your target to escape from you once again. It just came out. Robin muttered under his breath. Naruto crossed his arms and shook his head. Yeah, not so fast, boy blunder. I'd like an apology. Raven, now more than relieved to have confirmation that her boyfriend was innocent, looked at Robin, who obviously wasn't happy in the least. I'm sorry. Robin muttered in a light, not so sincere tone. The young hero had made a huge mistake and wasn't happy at all. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the poor attempt at an apology. To his surprise, though, Beast Boy walked over and offered his hand. Hee, I'm so sorry about this misunderstanding. I hope you can forgive us and we can be friends. The green-skinned boy declared honestly. Naruto walked over and accepted Beast Boy's gesture. Yeah, sure, I'm fine with that. As long as you don't arrest me for being my mother's son. Beast Boy laughed and nodded in response. Starfire gave a small bow. It won't happen again. And I'd like to be your friend too. You make friend Raven happy, so you must be a good person. Cyborg nodded and took a step forward. Yeah, I'm with BB and Star. You make our girl happy, and we definitely messed up. So I'm sorry too, and I hope you can forgive me, man. Naruto smiled, reached out, and took Raven's hand. It's fine, but I've been here for about 3 hours. So I think my pizza should be arriving now. Come on, Raven, let's go! With that, Naruto began walking with Raven in tow. So his curiosity to get the best out of them also followed each Titan. Eventually, each teen was standing outside the Jump City Police Department, where Naruto was standing and waving a limousine in the distance. Expect a limo? Beast Boy muttered in surprise as he watched the vehicle pull up to the curb. I thought you ordered a pizza. Naruto laughed and watched the driver get out of the vehicle and bowed to him. Master Naruto. The man greeted him with a cheerful tone, while Robin looked at the man with wide eyes. It's good to see you too, Alfred. You haven't aged a day in 11 years. Naruto stated in a happy tone before turning to Beast Boy. And I ordered a pizza. I just took my order in a more unconventional way. Every member of the Titans was confused about who Naruto was actually calling, except for Robin. The young hero had already pieced together who was in the vehicle. So, when Alfred opened the door, everyone besides Naruto and Robin was overwhelmed to see Bruce Wayne stepping out of the vehicle. He was casually holding a large pizza box in his hands. Naruto, Bruce murmured in a low, happy tone before handing the box to Alfred. It really is you. Naruto smiled and walked over to the man and gave him a big hug. Yes, Uncle Bruce, it really is me. Bruce laughed and shook his head, a small tear slipping from the normally reserved man. I shouldn't have had any doubts, calling my private number just to order a pizza. That's something only you and your mother would do. Naruto joined in the man's laughter and stepped back. I'm my mother's son. Bruce nodded and leaned into his surrogate nephew's ear. Speaking of your mother, she's in the car. She said to hide until we leave? Bruce whispered in a low, hushed voice, pointing at the Teen Titans. She is a criminal, after all. Naruto nodded with a wide grin. Well, I'll bring someone with me. Don't worry, she won't arrest Mom, the boy declared before looking at Raven and beckoning the girl. Come on, Raven, let's go for a walk. Looking ahead, Bruce watched the dark-haired girl walk forward with a smile. Though for a split second, she met the gaze of her adopted son, Robin. In that brief moment, Bruce sent the boy a look that screamed disappointment, and caused Robin to look down in shame. As he knew, if he wasn't keeping his identity a secret, Robin would already be overheard. Though as Raven walked beside Naruto, the billionaire extended a friendly hand to Raven. Raven of the Teen Titans, it's a pleasure. Bruce began in a happy tone before winking at Naruto. And why would Naruto want a beautiful girl like you accompanying him? From what I understand, your team was the one that arrested him. Raven, who was a little nervous in the face of the intimidating figure, didn't respond. Naruto spoke for her though. Oh, she wasn't involved in my arrest. And besides, she's my girlfriend and I think she should meet my family, Naruto declared in a happy voice. Bruce nodded and reached for the limo. Well, after you two then. Watching from afar, Beast Boy tilted his head. That's Bruce Wayne. Raven's boyfriend knows Bruce Wayne. How do you know Bruce Wayne? Cyborg added. Robin sighed. You do realize that Naruto's father was Bruce Wayne. He was a business partner. In fact, Naruto might be richer than Bruce Wayne. Wait, you mean Harley Quinn used to be really rich? Beast Boy shouted softly. She still is, Robin replied as she watched Naruto enter the limo. But losing her husband and daughter drove her crazy. Who knows what the experience has done to Naruto? That's sad, Starfire muttered before smiling. Then we should try harder to be good friends with Naruto. Beast Boy and Cyborg nodded and watched Alfred close the limo door and walk over to the driver's seat. Inside the vehicle, Bruce and Naruto easily found a comfortable spot inside the large limo, but Raven was having a little difficulty. Not being accustomed to the good life at all, in fact, the luxury of the vehicle surprised her a bit. Looks like this is your first time kicking it with the high roller wrist, a bubbly female voice noted, instantly catching Raven's attention, since she hadn't known anyone else was inside. In fact, Raven's eyes widened in surprise when she noticed Harley Quinn casually sipping wine from a glass. I'm Harley, by the way, nice to meet you. Naruto rolled his eyes at his energetic mouse mother. She knows who you are, Mom, the blonde declared before opening his pizza box. You're a wanted criminal, and she's a hero. Harley childishly blew a raspberry at her son. It's called introducing you to pudding. It's something high society ladies like me do, Harley explained, speaking in a voice she used when mocking other rich women at her and Minato's charity events. Naruto rolled his eyes once again and turned his attention back to his pizza. Raven, on the other hand, extended her hand to the women. She didn't know how else to handle the situation, since Harley was a wanted criminal. She was also her boyfriend's mother though, and Raven strangely longed for women to like her. "I'm Raven and I'm dating your son." Raven introduced him in a low voice and hugging him. Harley gave Raven a hard look that only the most overprotective mothers could give. This caused Raven to bite her lower lip and look down. Though the hero wasn't prepared for what was going to happen next. "Welcome to the family, doll," Harley declared happily as she launched herself forward and wrapped herself around Raven. Naruto gave his mother an annoyed look, while Raven blushed a deep shade of red. "We're not getting married, Mom," the young teenager explained in an exhausted voice. "We're just dating, so don't scare her." "I won't scare her," Harley declared as she began rocking Raven forth and smothering the hero in her embrace. "Besides, I have a feeling you two will last." "I like this pudding," Naruto sighed and looked at Bruce. "Can you help me here?" Bruce cleared his throat. "Harley, maybe you should give Raven some space. She just met you, and you're a little overbearing sometimes. Let the poor girl warm up to you first." Harley rolled her eyes and stepped away from Raven, giving the girl some breathing room. "Fine, I'll give her some space," the mother criminal muttered before looking at her son. "But tell me, Pudding, how have you been? It feels like forever since we talked." "I've been a good mom," Naruto began, looking at Bruce. "Though I think someone else has more questions for me than you do. After all, it's been 11 years, hasn't it?" Bruce nodded. "You've grown so much, Naruto, but why stay hidden for so long?" Naruto casually pointed a finger at his mother. "It was Mom's idea to keep me safe from her enemies," the blonde explained as he stretched his arms forward a little. "But I think it's time I came out into the public eye and took over the family business. After all, I now have a superhero girlfriend to keep me out of harm's way." Raven looked away slightly and frowned. She would do anything to keep Naruto safe. However, she was only one person, and she feared that she wouldn't be enough to keep Naruto safe. So, declaring her true identity was something Raven decided she should try to convince Naruto not to do at a later time. Bruce, on the other hand, nodded and placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. "You have the full support of me and my company behind you," Naruto smiled. "Thanks, Uncle Bruce. We can work out the details of my return to society as Naruto Namikaze later, but I can keep my last name as Quinn. I've gotten used to it now." As the men spoke, Harley noticed the rather long look Raven was giving her, causing the mother to raise an eyebrow. "Do you have something on your mind, doll?" Harley asked in a nonchalant tone. Raven nodded and clenched her fists, not wanting to bring up her thoughts about Naruto leaving as a Namikaze. So, thinking of something else, she quickly got sidetracked. "What can you tell me about the assassin you hired?" Harley smiled at the question, and shook her head before laughing. "I was wondering when you'd ask about the old fox boy. He's someone I hired to track down the person responsible for Mito and Minato's deaths. He's a secretive type and only contacts me for payments and news about his assignment. I have no way of contacting him or looking him up if that's what you want to know." Raven looked down and frowned. "I see." Harley walked over and patted the girl on the back. "I like your doll, but here's a warning," her mother began, making Raven look up. "Don't get consumed with hunting, fox boy. It won't end well for you, but enough of that talk. I came here to check on my pudding, and now I want to get to know you more, doll. So let's have more pleasant conversation." Raven nodded. "Okay, I understand." Harley laughed and pinched Raven's cheek. "Well, why don't you tell me how you met my little pudding cup?" Raven blushed as she remembered the first time she and Naruto met. "We met at his bookstore." Gasping with excitement, Harley pointed at her son. "And you said owning a bookstore would be a dumb idea. Just goes to show Mom knows best." Naruto rolled his eyes, while Raven coughed awkwardly into her hand. "He was shirtless when we met too," the hero explained as he looked at his boyfriend. "I think he was trying to show off in front of me." Harley looked at her son. "Is that true, Pudding?" "Yes," Naruto replied simply, earning a smile from Raven. Since she believed Harley would scold him and Raven would get revenge for Naruto teasing her with her body. "That's my boy!" Harley shouted loudly, causing Raven to sway slightly in her seat. "Like I always said, strut what I gave you." Bruce laughed, and shook his head at Raven's reaction to the mother-son duo. "Poor girl, you have an idea what kind of family you ran into," Raven sighed. "I'm starting to get an idea," the girl murmured softly. Oh, doll. Harley began as she wrapped herself around the hero once more. You don't really, but you're stuck with us now. Raven smiled and looked at Naruto. I think I agree with that. Naruto shared Raven's smile and nodded in response. Yeah, me too. Later, Tower of the Titans. After enjoying a pleasant time getting to know Naruto's mother and surrogate uncle, Raven decided it was time to head back to the tower and called it a night. However, when the young hero entered the main living space of Titan's Tower, she was instantly greeted by a group of awkwardly smiling friends and an annoyed team leader. Friend Raven! Starfire shouted loudly, running to her friend. How was your time with the boyfriend? Good. Raven murmured briefly and simply as she walked past the alien princess and headed to her room. Beast Boy spread his arms and chuckled awkwardly. Want to tell us what it was like meeting Bruce Wayne? Not really. Raven answered quickly, as she was almost approaching the hallway that led to her bedroom. Cyborg scratched his head at Raven's gruff tone. Is everything okay, Ray? You seem upset. Did Naruto do something to you? As if the last string had snapped, Raven turned to her team and gave each member a death glare. Can you idiots not tell I'm mad at you? The teen yelled loudly. I warned you to keep Naruto alone, and what did you do? You four arrested him, but Raven, it was a misunderstanding. Beast Boy pointed out in his and the others' defense. Besides, we apologized, and he forgave us. Yes, Ray, everything is okay now. We want to be friends with Naruto and start over. Cyborg added. Raven narrowed her eyes. You went behind my back, the girl declared, causing everyone present to look down. We're supposed to be a team and trust each other. But instead, you arrested my boyfriend without asking me anything about him. Now the damage is done, and he'll come out as Naruto Namikaze. Starfire tilted her head. But isn't that good? He won't have to lie about who he is. Raven clenched her knuckles. It was bad enough people finding out I was involved with him. But now he's coming out as a billionaire with a criminal mother. Do you understand how big a target that puts on his back? You're worried about her safety, Robin said softly, when he finally spoke for the first time since Raven had arrived. Yes, I'm worried. He can't protect himself like you or I could, Raven declared loudly. And he's been through enough. I didn't think of it that way. Beast Boy muttered sadly. I'm sorry, Crow nodded. Yes, you should be, but from now on, leave me alone. Naruto may have forgiven you, but I'm not that generous, the young hero stated in an angry tone. As far as I'm concerned, we're a team protecting the city also. All ties are severed. Each team member watched Raven walk to her room with wide eyes. None of them fully believed what she just said. Dude! Beast Boy began quietly. We really messed up this time. Cyborg put a hand on his friend's shoulder. Yeah, we did, BB, but we'll get our girl back. We just have to give her some time. Starfire placed a hand sadly over her mouth. Maybe getting to know Naruto better would help. Cyborg and Beast Boy nodded, while Robin just looked down. He was embarrassed and didn't know what to do. However, a vibration on his communicator caused him to look at the device, allowing the boy to see a message that simply said, Call me now. Sighing to himself, Robin headed to his room. I have to make a call, the leader declared as he walked past his friends and into his own room. Then, closing and locking the door from behind, he removed his mask and stumbled over to a monitor. Robin then slumped into his chair and called the one person he dreaded having a conversation with, Bruce Wayne. The call didn't even ring once before Bruce answered it, and faced Robin's face with a blank stare. Disappointment doesn't even begin to describe what I'm feeling right now, Bruce began in a hostile voice. BR. Bruce immediately raised his hand. No, you don't talk, you just listen, the powerful man instructed firmly. You arrested someone based on a loose connection without doing any further investigation, which only resulted in your real target getting away from you once again and your team looking like a bunch of dumb kids. However, that might be an honest description of your team, except for Raven. Bruce let out a long sigh and massaged his forehead. Honestly, Robin, you're letting this killer get the best of you. I raised you and trained you to be better. Robin clenched his fists. So what should I do? Let this murderer run free. Bruce crossed his arms and shook his head. No, but you should pretend for a day that I gave you all the training and experience you need to catch the lab. You just need to suppress your emotions and use the tools you have. You're an incredible young hero with Robin, and you have a lot of potential. So here's some fatherly advice. Stop wasting the potential you have and catch this killer the right way. Robin looked down and gritted his teeth. Well, what's the right path then, Dick? Bruce spoke softly. Sometimes I don't have all the answers, but that's why I love being a member of the Justice League. It reminds me that I have others to lean on for ideas and support. Don't forget that you have a team too. Try asking them for help instead of blindly steering them in the wrong direction. Because if you continue to lead the Titans the way you are now, you won't have a team to lead much longer. Robin remained silent, absorbing everything Bruce was saying. From now on, he'd lost Raven's friendship, and who could say how long he'd remain a Titan? So how long would it be before more members of his team left? You're okay, Robin murmured softly. Bruce smiled. Of course I do, but we can talk later, Robin. You clearly need some time to think things through. I'm currently staying at a hotel in the city and will be in touch. With that, Bruce's video feed cut out and Robin was left alone with nothing but his own thoughts. With Naruto entering his bookstore, Naruto was accompanied by his mother, Harley Quinn. As the two entered the empty store, Naruto leaned against the counter and turned his gaze toward the back staircase. Are you and Shika buddies here? Naruto shouted loudly. I'm not your damn partner. Artemis angrily shouted as she quickly descended the stairs from her living space to the tent. You totally are. Naruto replied with laughter in his voice. Artemis rolled her eyes. What? The blonde grumbled before her eyes caught Harley's. Wait, it's your mother! Naruto snorted and crossed his arms. Not just a lady who looks like her, the teenager replied sarcastically. Harley laughed and waved goodbye to his son. Don't be an idiot and introduce me to your friend. Naruto turned his head and pouted. She can introduce herself. Artemis snickered at her friend's expense and held out a hand. I'm your son Artemis Croc's friend. Harley accepted the girl's hand. It's a pleasure, darling. A loud yawn came from Shikamaru's staircase and made itself known to the group. How can a kid get some rest with all this noise? Giggling to herself, Artemis pointed at Shikamaru. That lazy ass over there is Shikamaru Nara. Hey! Shikamaru greeted half-heartedly as he lazily waved to Harley. Harley wiggled from ear to ear. So this is your team you told me about over the pudding? You seem like a capable group. Naruto smiled and pointed to himself and each member of his team. Black Fox, Vixen, and Shadow Man. The boy explained, sharing each of their code names with Harley. Not bad. Harley complimented before placing a hand to her chin. But what's the name of your team? We don't have one. Naruto muttered sadly. Though we totally should. Artemis added. Sounds like a lot of troublesome work to me. Shikamaru grumbled. Thinking to herself, Harley snapped her fingers and smiled. What about the outlaws? Each team member shared a look and shrugged or nodded. Not bad. Artemis noted. Yeah, I like it too. Naruto admitted. That's a fitting name. Shikamaru yawned. Naruto smiled at his team. So I guess we're the outlaws now, the boy declared happily, earning 2 nods from his team. Also Shika, thanks for remembering the plan. You played tag with me while I was in custody. Everyone believed you were me without a doubt. Shikamaru nodded in response. It wasn't me, just Artemis in your suit with some extra padding to help it match your body type. Her fighting style practically mirrors yours, so it made sense that she would be the decoy. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Really? Good work, partner. Artemis looked at Naruto. 1. We're partners. 2. Thanks for not letting me in on your little scheme. Naruto dismissed the girl. It never came up, but that's besides the point. Now I'm free to do as I please since I've officially been taken off the Teen Titans' radar. Harley grinned, as this was technically her plan that had been used to trick the Teen Titans. Then Naruto Namikaze can go out into the world, and the outlaws can begin their pursuit of Slade Wilson. The mother declared in a pleased voice. Naruto opened his mouth to speak, but the sound of breaking glass put him on high alert. Then, showing expert reaction time, he caught a dagger pointed at his torso. Mom, downstairs, Naruto instructed, making the woman take cover behind a bookshelf. Are we under attack? Artemis asked as she and Naruto pointed toward the tent door. Shikamaru, standing next to Harley, looked at the two blondes critically. What do you two see? Leaning slightly outward, Naruto scanned the streets and rooftops. However, whoever had attacked him just now was gone. Nothing, Naruto replied. Hey, let me see that dagger, Artemis said as she took the blade from Naruto's hand. There's something hanging from the handle. The curious Shikamaru approached the group and along with Naruto saw Artemis grab something wrapped in a piece of paper. What is it? Naruto asked. Taking the paper, Artemis slowly unfolded the wrapper and revealed a black flash drive. A flash drive? This is Momoshika's area. Artemis murmured softly. There's something written on the paper. Shikamaru pointed at the group. Looking where Shikamaru pointed, Artemis brought the paper closer for inspection. To Naruto Namake's. Artemis muttered in a surprised voice, looking at Naruto with a look of astonishment. Let's go downstairs now. I want fingerprints on the dagger, cameras checked and… Naruto snatched the flash drive from Artemis and handed it to Shikamaru. We're going to find everything on this. You don't have to tell me twice. Shikamaru declared, being the first to head to their underground headquarters. Artemis followed him, dagger in hand. I'll scan the security footage, Naruto gestured to Harley. Come on, Mom, it might not be safe to be alone. Stay with us. Harley nodded, and the four of them entered the elevator and went down to their headquarters. Once they arrived, Shikamaru and Artemis sat next to each other, each working on their own task. Naruto looked over their shoulders with a frown on his face. Let's see what we have here. Shikamaru muttered as he inserted the device and began typing. Walking in front of a giant monitor connected to Shikamaru's computer, Harley watched as information rapidly appeared on the screen. However, what happened next was something no one present was prepared for. A video feed came to life, catching the attention of everyone present. The feed itself showed nothing but an empty chair in a location that was impossible to identify, considering it was just a blank, empty room. Greetings Naruto Namake's, or is it Quinn? Perhaps you'd prefer me to call you Black Hood or perhaps Black Fox? All these name changes are hard to keep up with, I must admit. A calm, relaxed voice spoke through the transmission. Perhaps I should call you by the name your master gave you, Thelab. The blood in Naruto's veins ran cold, as this person knew too much for Naruto's liking. I bet you're going a little crazy wondering who I am. You probably don't know how I know who you really are. Maybe you can have your little genius friend figure it out. I'm sure Shikamaru doesn't know who you are. He's watching this recording with you. Knowing you and your predictable nature, I'm sure Sports Master's daughter, Artemis, is with you too. Shikamaru and Artemis were absolutely shocked to hear someone calling them. As far as they knew, it was a quiet and secretive operation, but it seems they weren't as secretive as they thought. You see, Naruto, I've been watching you ever since you came to Jump City. Remember that first group of thugs you took out and the incident that made the news? I bet you thought there were no cameras around to catch your actions. Well, you were right to believe that, except I was following and watching you. I was the one who recorded you and leaked the footage. Naruto clenched his fists, not liking anything this unknown individual was saying. The mere thought of someone stalking him for so long infuriated the blonde. I've seen all the criminals you've killed, Naruto. I've seen your fights with the Teen Titans, which is something that interests me greatly. Though not as much as your little affection for Raven. Oh, how distorted it would be if I knew the truth. Perhaps I'll inform you of my findings. Naruto slammed his hands on the table, an action that surprised Artemis. Who are you? I'd assume you're wondering why, after watching you for so long, I'd reveal myself now. The voice began with a light laugh, as a person walked up to the screen. Well, since that idiot Mizuki turned me in, I think it's time for my next move. So listen carefully, Naruto, because I have a proposition for you. Slade! Naruto roared in absolute anger, as he watched the masked man take a seat in front of the camera. My purpose is simple, do as I say when I say. In return, I will slowly share with you any information your heart desires. For example, I can name all of the people responsible for your father's death, and why he was a target to be killed. That's right, Naruto, in good faith, I will reveal that the massacre that took your father's life was not random. It was all orchestrated from an elaborate plan to kill your father so that the conspirators would be cleared of blame. Staggering back, Naruto was shaken to his core. Everything he had known for the past 11 years slowly turned around. You have nothing to lose, Naruto, and I'm sure we can both benefit from this little arrangement. Though I'm sure you're still wary of me, after all, RA has trained you better to believe anything you hear. Slade noted as he interlaced his fingers and leaned forward. So on that flash drive, you'll find 3 things that I'm sure will sway you in my direction. Naruto looked down at the flash drive that was stuck into the computer. First, you'll find a copy of every piece of information I've gathered that reveals who you really are. Proof that if you don't cooperate, I can make things a lot more interesting for you. Second, you'll find coordinates that lead to a rendezvous point, where we can talk in person. And finally, well, I'm sure once you find it, you'll be more than happy to join me. With that, the video ended and Naruto quickly looked at Shikamaru. Is he telling the truth? Clicking on some folders, images of Naruto in his costume with his face revealed appeared on the screen, along with images of Artemis and clips of the duo in action. There were even images of Naruto and Raven's dates, showing how dedicated Slade had been to following Naruto. Yeah, he's got a lot on us, Shikamaru stated sadly. Artemis raised an eyebrow and pointed to one of the two unopened folders. One read a rendezvous point, which were obviously the coordinates Slade mentioned, while the other simply said there was more than one hole. Is there more than one well? Is that the folder Slade said would win you over? The blonde woman asked in a confused voice. What does that mean? Naruto frowned and rubbed his chin, his mind racing to figure out what the folding could mean. However, the blonde didn't have to think long. Open it now! The young assassin shouted. Doing as he was told, Shikamaru opened the folder, and a single image appeared on the screen. It was a picture of a young teenage girl with long blonde hair and blue eyes. She was smiling in the photo and wearing a short black t-shirt with a yellow Titan's insignia, T, in a small yellow circle on the front, and yellow shorts with a brown belt around her waist. Who the hell is he? Artemis asked, tilting her head. And why does he look so familiar? There's more than one well, Naruto murmured softly, his chest tightening. Shikamaru did a facial scan on that girl. Nodding, Shikamaru took the photo and a few articles appeared. So, doing a quick read, he nodded. Okay, I remember her. She was a member of the Teen Titans a while back. Her name was Terra, and she disappeared out of nowhere. So far, no one has been able to find her, and the Teen Titans have been keeping quiet about her. Okay. Artemis began in a confused voice. So I used to be teammates with your girlfriend. But why would Slade say that a picture of this girl would make you want to work for him, Shikamaru? Naruto spoke in a lifeless voice. Use software to compare Terra's photo with one of my mother and me. Hearing her son's request, Harley was filled with confusion. However, as she watched Shikamaru compare the three, she was speechless. The three images are identical, Shikamaru stated, his voice sounding as confused as Artemis's. Naruto, why are they the same? Slade only spoke of my father as the one who died. He never mentioned Mito but the phrase more of a pit. He refers to the Lazarus pit the League of Assassins uses to revive the dead. Naruto's voice cracked a little and the blonde clenched his fists. She's been alive all these years. That bastard used a Lazarus pit to resurrect Mito. Harley brought a hand to her mouth and looked at Terra's photo with a new perspective, wondering why she hadn't seen it before. Like Terra, like any twin, he looked like a female version of her brother Naruto. Is she alive? Is my baby alive? Harley asked, as the women collapsed to the floor in tears. Running over and comforting his mother, Naruto gave the woman a tight hug. I don't know, Mom, but I promise I'll find out what's going on. Artemis crossed her arms and looked at the image. So Slade holds all the cards, and we're forced to play along, Shikamaru nodded. Yes, but the real question is, what is he after? This kind of planning and preparation, he's got something big up his sleeve. Well, we'd better prepare for anything, Naruto declared, causing his team to look at him. We've played right into their hands, and that stops now. But what are we going to do? Artemis asked. It's like you said, honey, Harley began, as she began to compose herself. That bastard holds all the cards, but we'll play along for now. Us? Naruto asked in surprise. Harley nodded. If my baby's involved, I am too. I'll have a contact of mine dig up the grave and Mito's identity if it's empty. In the meantime, I'll help your team sort out this Slade problem you're having. Shikamaru, where is the meeting place? Standing up, Naruto and Harley approached Shikamaru, who had already opened the last remaining folder. Let me type in the coordinates and we'll have an answer. The black-haired teen reported before the computer displayed a map for everyone. It's not far. Taking a seat next to Shikamaru, Harley pointed to a row of suits on display. Well, don't just sit around with 3 suits. Naruto and Artemis went to their team without hesitation and began preparing. Shikamaru, on the other hand, stayed behind and didn't move. Yeah, my suit is more for show. I'm more useful here anyway. the lazy teenager tried to explain. Harley shook her head. Not tonight, honey. I'll be in charge of surveillance. Your ass is hitting the field. Shikamaru looked puzzled and didn't want to do any fieldwork. But this equipment is very high-tech, and I'm smart enough to handle it all, Harley snorted. Do you think I'm just a pretty face, honey? I'm the one who started this place, the criminal mother revealed in an annoyed tone. I swear it's like people forget I have 3 damn doctors. Naruto, now fully dressed, tossed an outfit to Shikamaru. Get dressed, Shikamaru. Tonight the outlaws are going out as a team. We've been careless, and that ends tonight. Standing up and walking to change, Shikamaru grumbled to himself. Yeah, whatever, I'm surrounded by troublemakers. Walking over to Naruto, Artemis handed the blonde his mask. I've got your back, Naruto. Whatever you decide to do, I'll back your game. Placing his mask over Naruto, he nodded. Thank you, teammate. Artemis nodded with a smile and put on her own mask. Things were changing rapidly, but little by little, a team was forming that would change the future. Chapter 10. Red X. 9 years ago, Naruto was 7 years old. Dressed in his League of Assassins uniform, Naruto stood motionless on a small dock. To his right, Jade stood still, while Talia stood with her back to the young children. Her arms were crossed behind her back, and a relaxed aura surrounded her. Talia hadn't spoken once since they regrouped and explained the details of their mission. This made Naruto and Jade nervous, as they didn't know how the women would react to their mission. Would they be praised and return home? Or did they just make a mistake to earn a lecture and punishment? Naruto didn't know the answer himself, but at that moment, he didn't care what happened. Currently, the boy felt empty, as if any innocence he had was ripped from his body. He was no longer just Naruto Namikaze, the son of a billionaire. He was now a murderer who took the life of someone who had trusted him. You did well, the elderly assassin finally added. Father will be very pleased with your accomplishments. Tonight you are full-fledged assassins. Naruto clenched his fists and focused on the ground. At first, he wanted to become an assassin. He wanted to avenge his father and sister. However, at this moment, Naruto no longer knew what he wanted. Thank you, Miss Talia. Jade spoke, before bending one knee in respect to the woman. Copying Jade's stance, Naruto bowed, but the boy remained silent. However, Naruto's silence was replaced by the slow approach of a vehicle. This caused Naruto to look up and see an expensive black car with tinted windows pull up in front of Talia. Our client, Talia informed her 2 subordinates, as she thought they were both curious about the random vehicle. Standing in line to be next to Talia, Naruto and Jade stood up and saw a door open, revealing the last person Naruto expected to see inside the car, Lex Luthor. He leaned out of the vehicle carrying a large metal briefcase. Wonderful work as always, Lex complimented, as he approached Talia with the briefcase in hand. You'll find the usual amount along with a small bonus for good execution. Taking the briefcase in her hand, Talia gave it a quick once-over before nodding and closing it. It was a pleasure doing business with you. Likewise, Lex replied casually, slowly walking around Talia and stopping at Naruto and Jade. But tell me, which one of you was responsible for taking out that miserable bitch and her son? Clenching his fists, Naruto gulped. That would be me. The boy's tone was cold and dead. One that Lex simply smiled at, recognizing the weakness in Naruto's voice. So that was the boy's first kill? Lex mused, looking back at Talia. The latter of whom only nodded in response. Yes, but despite everything, he's still one of our best assassins. My father has great aspirations for the boy, the devil's daughter declared. Lex raised his eyebrow and chuckled. Someone who's caught Ra's eye. You must be something special, kid. The corrupt businessman complimented him in a light-hearted tone, but his facial features quickly shifted into a frown. A dark, heavy aura surrounded the man, followed by Lex clasping 2 hands on the boy's shoulders. But all that praise means nothing when you're barely able to stand your first kill. You're nothing more than a kid trying to play assassin. You're an over-your-head kid. Naruto looked at the man through his mask. This was his first encounter with Lex Luthor, though it wouldn't be his last. Currently, fully dressed and prepared for anything, Naruto stood perched on a barren rooftop. To his left, Artemis hunched over with her bow already drawn. Her eyes scanned the surrounding landscape for anything out of the ordinary. Any movement? Naruto asked in a whisper. Shaking her head, Artemis relaxed her bow. Nothing, I don't like this Naruto. It feels like a trap. That wouldn't make sense. Shikamaru's voice pointed from behind. Turning around, both Naruto and Artemis looked back at Shikamaru. The teen was currently in his own personally designed suit, which was similar to the ones Naruto and Artemis wear. However, Shikamaru sported a high-tech armband and a black helmet, while also having a black utility belt around his hips. See, unlike Naruto and Artemis, he wasn't a hand-to-hand fighter. He relied on his powers, intelligence, and technology. So his suit and gear obviously reflected that. What do you mean? Artemis asked quickly. Sighing to himself, Shikamaru approached his two friends. Slade has us right where he wants us. It wouldn't make sense for him to set a trap because he obviously wants to use us for something. Naruto nodded. Shika's right, but don't forget that letting our guard down led us to this point. So it should be a lesson to us to avoid unnecessary mistakes. I couldn't have said it better myself. Slade's calm, serene voice agreed. Instantly on alert, Naruto and Artemis turned toward the voice and aimed their bows. Shikamaru joined his friends, except a small black shadow slowly extended from his feet. This action earned a small chuckle from Slade, who was slowly emerging from the darkness into the young teen's view. Now honestly, there's no need for all this hostility. Slade began as he approached within about 10 paces of the outlaws and stopped. Then why don't we put away our weapons and have a nice chat? Naruto lowered his bow and signaled for his team to retreat. What do you want? The masked assassin asked, his voice laced with anger. Slade laughed and held out his hands. Capable pawns. Nothing more, nothing less. Naruto frowned beneath his mask. I'm no one's pawn. Slade shook his head. Please, since your father's death, you've been moved up and down on the chessboard. Naruto took a step forward, his anger getting the better of him. However, his mother's calm and serene voice spoke through his earpiece. Puddin, relax, don't do anything rash. Play your cards right and we can get more information from Slade. Following his mother's instructions, Naruto clenched his fists and stood up. Fine, you want pawns, but for what? Slade placed his hands behind his back and sighed. I have my own goals and ambitions, but to achieve what I desire, I need a capable group of young followers. I've experimented with using hive children, Robin, and even your sister. However, none of the ones I mentioned were entirely suitable for what I have planned. Shikamaru crossed his arms. And you think the three of us are suitable for your plans? Slade simply nodded in response. As you know, I've been observing the three of you. The man began before pointing to each teen. A genius unmatched by any of her peers. A young woman raised by criminals and trained by someone whose skill can surpass even Batman's. The three of you are an impressive combination of young individuals, but you're missing two key components. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the man. And what exactly are we missing? Slade couldn't help but smile behind his mask. Two people who will round you out to form the perfect team. A team that will be more than capable of succeeding at any task I give them. Artemis crossed her arms and snorted in response to Slade's statement. Do you really think we'll work with the criminals you send us? Artemis asked in an annoyed voice. You'll work with whoever I tell you to, unless you want all your secrets revealed to the world. Slade responded in a quick, hostile tone. Naruto rolled his eyes and took a small step forward. Save the petty threats, Slade, and go after what you want. We don't need a 5-member team. The three of us are perfectly capable of accomplishing whatever you have planned. Ignoring Naruto, Slade held up a finger. First, you will locate and recruit a man named Red X into your team. You've heard of him, haven't you? Naruto clenched his fists at Slade's response, but instead of doing anything rash, the assassin nodded. Yes, he's an old acquaintance of mine, the young teen explained, surprising his team. We haven't spoken in a year or so, but I can communicate with him. Slade started to laugh. Well, you'll need his skill set to get your 5th member. And who's the person you have in mind? Shikamaru asked, his brain already thinking of hundreds of different candidates. Why none other than my former apprentice and Naruto's sister, Tera Namikaze? Or should I say Mito? Slade revealed, making Naruto almost lose his cool. As if it matters at this point. Her mind is so twisted she probably doesn't even know who she is anymore. Where is she? The blonde demanded, his right hand firmly gripping his bow. What did you do to my sister? Slade threw his head back, laughing, and began to back away. That's not how this works, Naruto. Do what I say exactly as I say, and then you'll learn about your sister and father. So go recruit your new teammate, and then I'll contact you for your next order." Watching Slade walk away, Naruto turned around and kicked the ground. "Damn it!" the blonde shouted loudly. "This isn't what we needed to happen," Shikamaru sighed. "Well, unfortunately, we've been put in a position where we must follow Slade without hesitation. The upside is, he just wants us to recruit more people onto our team right now, one of which is your sister Naruto," Artemis added. "Exactly," Shikamaru began before approaching his two friends. "Right now, Slade is giving us the opportunity to become stronger. If we play our cards right from here on out, we can gain information from Slade and, in turn, use it to our own advantage." Naruto crossed his arms and nodded at what his friend was saying. "We can play along for now, but be prepared to eliminate Slade the moment he becomes a serious problem or becomes useless." "That's what I was thinking. We might have been careless up until now. However, now we're aware of Slade, and that gives us a chance to prepare," Shikamaru stated. "So this Red X guy," Artemis began in a confused voice. "Who is he and how do you know him?" Naruto sighed and shook his head. "It's a long story I'll save for when we make contact with Red X. That's acceptable," Shikamaru replied as he walked away. "Let's go back and discuss our next move." "Sounds good to me, but let's hurry so I can call Red X," Naruto declared as he and his team left the rooftop. One day later, hidden behind a large stage, Naruto was dressed in a sleek black suit, which was by no means a normal outfit for the teenager. In fact, the last occasion Naruto had dressed like this was for his father and sister's funeral. A fact he was all too aware of as he began to feel the tie slowly tighten around his throat. So, to remedy the problem, Naruto began to pull and adjust the fabric around his neck in nervous desperation. "Here, let me help you," a calm, caring voice spoke, as two gentle hands found their way onto his. Then, carefully adjusting the tie and making it looser, Naruto smiled. "Thanks, Rachel," Naruto began softly, looking at the hero beside him, who was dressed in her signature hooded cloak. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Raven blushed and finished her adjustments. "And I don't know what I'd do without you either," the hero admitted in a soft, vulnerable voice. "That's why I have to ask you something." Naruto raised an eyebrow and placed both hands on Raven's shoulders. "Feel free to ask me anything." Raven nodded and swallowed. "Are you sure you're ready to reveal your identity? I mean, your family runs a wealthy business, your mother has a lot of enemies, and if people find out about us..." The young heroine was stopped by Naruto's lips against hers. Then, for a moment that felt like a blissful eternity, the two remained still before separating. "I won't hide anymore," Naruto declared before pressing his forehead against Raven's. "I've been hiding for 11 years and I'm done. I'm ready for whatever comes my way, both good and bad. So, will you support me?" Raven took her hands and intertwined her fingers with Naruto's. "I can't protect you forever," Naruto laughed and kissed Raven's cheek. "Who said you had to? I'm a Gotham boy, we're pretty tough." Raven joined in the laughter and shook her head. "And stubborn," she added, also thinking of her leader. "You may be right, but don't worry about me, Rachel. I won't leave your side," Naruto declared with nothing but confidence. Raven blushed at her boyfriend and smiled. She was about to speak, but another voice spoke before her. "Greetings, you're probably wondering why I'm holding a press conference in Jump City of all places." Bruce Wayne's voice boomed through a loudspeaker. "Looks like your uncle is just getting started." Raven noted. Naruto nodded and continued listening. 11 years ago I lost a friend, not a brother, and a precious goddaughter to the crime of Gotham City. However, they weren't the only people I lost. I had lost the woman I treated like a sister to her own folly, and as a result I also lost my godson. For years I tried to win back the family I had lost, but I failed," Bruce stated in a bold yet gentle tone. "However, that is in the past, as I have now won back some of that family I had lost. So now I stand here before all of you, damn proud to welcome Naruto Namikaze to the stage. That's my cue," Naruto declared, holding Raven. "Will you stand by me?" Tightening her hug, Raven thought about the consequences of her and Naruto being seen together when all the attention was on them. However, people finding out about their relationship was bound to happen eventually. So she thought it best to tear off the bandage now. "Yes, I will," Raven declared, as she and Naruto walked hand in hand across the stage and into view of everyone present. This action instantly earned a sea of murmurs and shouts, while the sound of camera snapshots could be heard in the background. Bruce smiled as he saw the young couple. And allow me to introduce Jump City's very own hero, Raven of the Teen Titans. Naruto broke away from Raven and approached Bruce at the podium. Then, embracing the man, the two shared a moment for all to see. After this display, Naruto floated above the podium, while Raven and Bruce flanked each side of him. Naruto was then quickly bombarded with a barrage of questions, forcing the young teenager to raise a hand to silence the crowd. My name is Naruto Namikaze, son of the late billionaire Minato Namikaze and Gotham's crime queen Harley Quinn. For the past 11 years, I have been hidden away by my mother, who had desired my protection from the world that had taken me away. My beloved father and sister, Naruto declared in a loud and authoritative voice. In that time I have studied and trained my mind and body, preparing to one day emerge and take my rightful place as the head of my father's company. As a testament to that statement, behind me will be the new location of the Jump City's branch office on Namikaze Enterprise. My goal for the future is to re-establish the empire my father had built, and continue his legacy of helping the world. Naruto paused briefly, allowing everyone to absorb the information he'd given them. After a brief moment, though, he leaned into the microphone. Any questions? Are you a criminal along with your mother? A reporter shouted. Naruto laughed in response. I love my mother, but her actions don't reflect mine. I'm my own man. Next question. Why is Raven of the Teen Titan with you? Another reporter asked. Naruto shrugged. She's my girlfriend, the blonde stated in a casual tone, one that garnered even more noise and excitement than before. So what's your stance on the vigilante operating against the Teen Titans? A woman reporter yelled, earning a smile from Naruto. And no comment, the teenager replied. Bruce leaned into the microphone and smiled before Naruto could comment further. I think that's all we have for today. Thanks for coming. The billionaire began before ushering Naruto and Raven off the stage. That went well. Naruto chuckled as he was escorted to a vehicle to leave the area. Raven rolled her eyes. Something like that, the heroine muttered as she entered the vehicle with Naruto. Naruto chuckled, but quickly became confused when he noticed Bruce, who was standing in the doorway of the vehicle with a smile. What about Uncle Bruce? Naruto asked, causing Raven to look at the man. Bruce smiled and adjusted his suit. I'm going back to Gotham. I've been gone too long, and there are some things that require my attention. The man explained, trying not to reveal that Batman had been away from Gotham for too long and needed to return home. However, Bruce didn't need to do so, as Bruce didn't know. Naruto knew who his uncle really was and pieced together the reason why he wanted to return to Gotham. Don't be a weirdo, Uncle Bruce, Naruto replied in a nonchalant tone. Oh, don't worry, I'll be seeing you a lot. Besides, next time I stop by, I think you'll have a little chat about relationships. Bruce then winked at him and slowly closed the door. By the way, check your pocket, Naruto, the billionaire added before the door closed. Naruto raised an eyebrow and searched his pockets. Then, to his surprise, he felt something inside his right pocket, which made the blonde smile. All these years later, and he can still pull one off, Naruto muttered, thinking about how when he was younger, Bruce managed to slip something past him. What did he leave you? Raven asked in a curious tone, as she watched her boyfriend slowly pull his hand out of his pocket. Okay, let's see, Naruto began, before bringing up something neither teen imagined Bruce would leave out. In fact, both teens were left with steam coming out of their ears at the sight of a single condom in Naruto's hand with a small note on it, which simply read, Always use protection, love you be. Good, Raven began in a nervous voice. I guess that explains the relationship conversation he wants to have with you later. He's the kind who gives lectures on protection. Naruto thought inside his head, his mind thinking of the son Bruce didn't even know existed. Yeah, I guess you're right, Raven nodded, and thanks to the condom incident, the pair were fairly quiet on their car ride back to Naruto's house. However, the trip didn't take long, and before the duo knew it, they were at the door of Naruto's shop. Once they entered the shop, they were surprised to find Naruto's mother and his roommates waiting for them. At the same time, the shop was preparing for a mini-party. What's going on? Naruto muttered in confusion, noticing a couple of boxes of Harley's pizzas and drinks. Well, Puddin', since today is the day you've officially returned to the world, I thought it would be nice if we had a little party, Harley explained in a giddy tone. Naruto sighed, wondering why his mother would pull a trick like this. I'm surprised you're still here, I thought Uncle Bruce would have made you go with him. Harley waved goodbye to her son. No, he tried to believe me, but I want to be with my little Puddin and his friends a little longer. Maybe even get into some trouble and make the Teen Titans come after me. Raven raised an eyebrow in response and quickly felt her boyfriend place a hand on her shoulder. She's not joking, Naruto explained in an exhausted voice. Mom loves to get attention in some pretty messed up ways. I apologize for anything I might do, Raven sighed. I really don't want to arrest my boyfriend's mom. So, could you please behave while you're in my town? Harley laughed and winked at him. I'll be on my best behavior. Yeah, you might as well take her in now. Naruto deadpanned, much to his mother's annoyance. I'm not that bad. You are a wanted criminal. So, you've killed people. Just idiots who deserved it. Raven, Artemis, and Shikamaru listened to the mother and son argue, beads of sweat forming on the sides of their heads. Instead of joining the conversation, Artemis approached Raven and held out her hand. I don't think we've ever formally met. I'm Naruto's roommate, Artemis, and that lazy sack of shit behind me is Shikamaru. Artemis greeted, as Raven shook her hand. It's a pleasure to finally meet you, the young hero began. But I'm curious. Naruto said he had roommates to pay the bills. However, considering who he is, I'm starting to think that's not the case. Artemis smiled. Naruto and I are childhood friends from his days in Gotham. Artemis lied, as she and Naruto cooked up a story because Raven got too curious. I wanted to move out of my mom's house in Gotham. So since Naruto and I have kept in touch somewhat over the years thanks to Harley, I asked to move here with him. Raven nodded in response and looked at Shikamaru. And you? Shikamaru shrugged. Naruto and I met not long ago. I was in a very difficult situation and he helped me. I've been living with him ever since, and because of who he was, Naruto revealed his identity to me. Since, unlike you, I can't protect myself, Naruto wanted to explain the dangers of being around him. That's a lot of trust for Naruto to put in someone, Raven pointed out. Shikamaru smiled, as the stories he and Artemis were telling seemed to be working. Well, your boyfriend is a very nice guy, but don't let him know I said that. It would be troublesome if you did. Raven smiled and looked at the young man who had captured her heart. He was currently still having a not-so-serious argument with his mother. An action that made Raven crack a smile, especially when Naruto momentarily stopped his argument to look in her direction. Yeah, it's really cool, the hero murmured in a soft, embarrassed voice. Artemis laughed and clung to Raven. You've got it bad for that idiot, the young vigilante declared before slowly leaning down to Raven's ear. But if you hurt him, I'll hurt you, Artemis whispered in a low, gentle voice. Shikamaru rolled his eyes when he heard Artemis threaten Raven. Oh, come on, you're all talking. Besides, if anyone wanted to hurt Naruto, it would be you. I swear you two fight or argue at least twice a day. It's beyond troublesome to deal with, like you're any better, Artemis shouted, still holding Raven. The young heroine stood and watched her boyfriend's friends exchange insults, while glancing at Naruto and Harley. Noticing the mother and son still arguing, Raven wondered what kind of trouble she'd gotten herself into. Despite everything, though, she was still more than happy to be involved in Naruto Namake's confusing life. A few hours later, the celebration of Naruto going public with his identity lasted a few hours before slowly dying down. In that time, Raven had gotten quite close to Artemis, when she realized the girl looked very similar to her boyfriend. So the two took each other in and became fast friends, much to Naruto's chagrin. Speaking of annoying, as expected, Harley took every opportunity she could to embarrass her son and Raven. Though to Naruto's surprise, Raven actually enjoyed her mother's company, which was important for their relationship to grow, but it also made the blonde worry about what kind of influence his mother would have on Raven. After all, Naruto was a testament to Harley's bad influence. Finally, there was Shikamaru, who had a few conversations with Raven, but didn't put in much effort. Meeting people was too much trouble for him. Eventually, though, Raven left, leaving the outlaws and Harley at Naruto's shop. Because of this, their conversation had shifted from pleasantries to more serious topics. So, Artemis began, as the girl balanced on the hind legs of a chair she was sitting in. What's our end game with Slade? Naruto snorted. Find out everything he knows and then kill him. Shikamaru rolled his eyes. You make it sound so easy, the black-haired teen began. You do realize he knows everything about us. I'm sure he has plenty of plans in store for us in case we don't cooperate. We have some surprises for him," Naruto argued, his fingers coming alive with electricity. "I doubt he knows about my powers. Speaking of which, I have a good understanding of my lightning-based powers. So we should start with my wind soon," Shikamaru nodded. "I'll plan a training regimen for you like last time. And yes, your powers are a surprise, but not a deciding factor for victory. Our best bet is to recruit Red X to retrieve your sister, and then make plans for Slade." "I agree," Harley added, speaking with a rare form of seriousness. "Slade may be a serious obstacle, but he has all the information that leads to the finish line." Naruto opened his mouth to speak, but the sound of the front door opening caught his attention along with everyone else's. Then, with a careful look, Naruto and company saw a black-haired teenager enter the store. Said teenager was roughly the same age as Naruto and had a very similar athletic build. He was dressed in dirty blue jeans, brown boots, and a red shirt with a dusty brown leather jacket over it. His face was partially hidden with a pair of black sunglasses, and he held 2 large duffel bags in each hand. "I guess the outlaws?" the young teenager asked, his voice containing a laugh. "Who are you?" Artemis asked in a defensive tone. The teenager dropped his bags and reached for his glasses. Then, slowly pulling them down, he winked at Artemis. "No need to be hostile, beautiful. I'm a friend. Red X, I suppose?" Shikamaru spoke, causing Artemis to notice the boy nodding in response. "You really didn't tell them who I was or that I was going?" Red X asked, his question directed at Naruto. "You're a complicated case," the blonde admitted with a shrug. "I thought I'd save the introduction and explanation of who you are for now," Red X snorted. "Typical, you haven't changed at all, Naruto." Naruto smiled and crossed his arms. "What can I say, Jay? You know I'm a creature of habit." Red X laughed and shook his head. "Well, since you've explained almost everything that's been going on, I'm pretty okay, but I never imagined Deathstroke would be involved in your family's incident, or that he revived your sister all those years ago." "Yeah, you're telling me that," Naruto muttered in frustration before his eyes shifted to Red X's bags. "But I take it from the bags that you're accepting my offer?" Red X nodded. "Yes, I'll join you, and in return, you'll help me get revenge on the Joker." Naruto nodded, but before he could say anything, Artemis leapt forward. "Okay, what's going on? Who is this Naruto kid? And why does he want revenge on the Joker?" Red X shook his head. "Man, you said this girl was hot-headed, Naruto, but I didn't expect this," the teen explained before giving a slight bow. "The name's Jason Todd, former Robin and current criminal extraordinaire." "Wait, Robin? Like in Teen Titans Robin? Our enemy!" Artemis yelled in surprise. "No, I'm not Dick," Jason explained in an annoyed tone. 3 years ago, Dick Grayson, the first Robin, left Gotham and started the Teen Titans. Shortly after I became the second Robin, I didn't want the mantle. However, everyone kept referring to me as Robin, so it stuck. I mean, at one point there were 2 Robins in the world." Naruto nodded and stood next to Jason. "He was Robin for a while until Roz set some events in motion. You see, Roz was busy overtaking the entire economy of Europe, and Uncle Bruce, aka Batman, took notice." "Bruce Wayne is Batman!" Artemis shouted. It was obvious," Shikamaru muttered. Naruto continued to ignore his friends. "Because of Uncle Bruce, RA hired a distraction. That distraction was the Joker, but unfortunately things went dark. He beat me to near death and left me inside a building he rigged to explode," Jason explained in an angry, direct tone. "Dark is a good way to put it," Naruto nodded. "As you might guess, Jason died that day, but Roz felt guilty and revived him. However, Jason was confused and disoriented from the Lazarus pit and ran away. Fortunately, I found Jason and helped him. The 2 of us have been friends ever since." Harley, who almost always held a hand to her chin. "So you were a former bat brat who died. Then Roz brought you back from the dead, and you befriended my puddin. My only question is, what have you been doing since then? Why haven't you gone back to Bruce?" Jason clenched his fists. "Because he let that monster live. The Joker killed me and Bruce did nothing about it. You want to know what I've been doing?" Jason opened his bag and pulled out the Red X suit, throwing it on the floor for everyone to see. "I was getting ready to kill that evil son of a bitch. I stole this suit from Dick and was planning on using it for my revenge. What I didn't know is that this suit is powered by xenothium, a particularly rare energy source that drains pretty fast. So ever since then, I've been stealing whatever I can to make money. Money that I can then use to kill the Joker and show Bruce the mistake he made. Naruto stepped forward and extended his hand to Jason. Like I told you on the phone, I've got your back. You, me, and our team will change this world for the better. Besides, with the outlaws backing you, the Joker won't be long in this world. Jason quickly took Naruto's hand. I believe you, and I'm with you 100% leader. Naruto smiled and looked at the Red X suit. You mentioned to me that you wanted to get rid of the Red X suit and name. Are you still sure about that? Jason nodded. I've followed in Dick's footsteps for too long. It's time for me to become my own man, with my own identity. Naruto smiled. Well, Shika can make you a new suit. Do you have any ideas for a codename? Jason grinned from ear to ear. Yeah, call me Red Riding Hood. With Crow walking through a burning mess of rubble and broken concrete, Raven made her way through downtown Jump City with stubble. She was slightly disoriented and in a trance-like state, her body moving forward and her feeling less in control of her actions. Finally, as she walked, her nostrils filled with the scent of smoke, blood, and death. Help me! A familiar voice shouted. Recognizing the voice, Raven quickened her pace and approached it. As she walked, she noticed the remains of a half-man, half-cyborg scattered across the street. However, this sight didn't deter her as she continued past the lower half of a green T-Rex, which was missing its entire upper half. RRA! The voice shouted again, but this time it was much weaker than before. Continuing her walk, Raven passed by an orange-skinned teenage girl lying motionless in a pool of blood. In her hands, a tattered cloak was tightly held, while the cloak seemed to cut into a giant footprint in the road. A mangled, unrecognizable corpse lay at the bottom. However, unfazed by the sight, Raven continued moving in a straight direction. She finally glimpsed an individual staggering in her direction. Instantly recognizing the person as the one who had called her, Raven ran toward him, though Raven arrived just in time to catch the person, who had collapsed forward. Naruto! The young hero cried, turning the boy toward her. Talk to me! Coughing in response, some blood flew out of Naruto's mouth. There was nothing you could do, the blonde muttered weakly. I couldn't be stopped. Tears streamed down her eyes. Raven shook her head. Who couldn't be stopped? The hero asked, his voice low and weak. Naruto, stay with me! Who couldn't be stopped? Smiling widely, Naruto raised his trembling hand and stroked the side of Raven's cheek. Thank you for saving me from my darkness. Naruto's eyes rolled back and his body went limp as he never finished his sentence. Naruto! Raven screamed in fear, clutching the boy and bowing her head in his long, messy blonde locks. Please, please don't leave me! The ground shook, and a loud crash came from behind Raven. The teenager noticed a giant horned shadow covering her and Naruto. This was followed by an all too familiar vile laugh. Daughter, you did well. A strong, deep demonic voice resonated. No! Raven cried, squeezed her eyes shut, and began rocking back and forth. Stop this! Screaming loudly, Raven shot out of bed and began to pant. Then she placed a hand on her sweaty forehead and sighed, realizing that everything was perfectly fine and that she was safe inside her room. That was just a dream. The young hero sighed in relief. It was all just a dream, he recited, unaware of the red glow on parts of his body that flickered for a brief moment. Chapter 11. The final member. Night had fallen over Jump City, and everything was relatively calm. Normally, the city was a center of crime at night. However, since Naruto and his team had appeared, most of the criminals were either dead or too afraid to show themselves. Although there were still a few exceptions, those who were brave or stupid enough to continue their illegal activities. Currently, a large group of those exceptions were meeting in an abandoned building. C said the meeting was a gathering of some of Jump City's crime bosses, all of whom were discussing their new problem, Naruto and his team. The meeting was quite small, consisting of only 5 crime bosses and their armed guards. These new vigilantes are a pain in the ass, a man spoke up, slamming his hands on a conference table. The Teen Titans were bad enough working with them, but these new kids play by different rules. I know what you're saying, Tony. Another crime boss spoke angrily. These bastards killed 12 of my best men last week. They're bad for business, admitted a woman in the group. We should eliminate them. Maybe we can turn the Teen Titans against him? Then use that distraction to push or have your own agendas. That's a solid plan. A voice commented from above, one that sent everyone present into a panic. With their guns pointed at the rafters, all the criminals present noticed the Black Fox watching them. Too bad you're not getting out of here alive, Black Fox declared before the gunfire forced him to jump. You're dead, Pu. A criminal began before an arrow to the neck silenced him. It's just a man, a criminal shouted before a figure landed behind him. You'd be wrong about that. Vixen laughed as she delivered a roundhouse kick to the unsuspecting criminal's head, knocking him unconscious and forcing some of the criminals to turn on her with their weapons. Before anyone could fire, though, a couple were hit by arrows, while others were restrained by the shadows on the ground. Seeing this, Vixen nodded to her teammates and leapt into action, disarming and knocking out the thugs. While this was happening, a lone crime boss fled the scene, but when he turned to look back at the battle, he was suddenly knocked backward. This caused the man to look up in fear and find himself facing a vigilante he had never seen before. Said vigilante dressed similarly to Black Fox and Vixen, but there were some key differences. For example, on his thigh, the man had a large knife strapped to his leg, along with an ammo pouch and 2 holsters. Though the biggest difference was his blood-red helmet, which was slightly concealed over a black hood. This was, of course, the newest member of the Outlaws, Red Hood. And where do you think you're going? Red Hood asked, pointing 2 pistols at the man. The criminal stuttered before Red Hood unleashed a burst of bullets into his chest, killing the man instantly and without remorse. Straight to hell, that's where, finished Red Hood. Landing next to Red Hood, Black Fox patted his friend on the back. Good work. And how does it feel to be eliminating crime again? Twirling his guns in his hand before placing them in their holsters, Red Hood chuckled. Feels great. Glad to be back in business. Especially when we're taking these assholes out the right way. The Black Fox nodded. Absolutely, that's why we're friends, Jay. You know what it takes to really fight crime. Well, what can I say? This way you get more results. Red Hood noted, as he and Black Fox began walking toward their other teammates. Speaking of results, good teamwork. Black Fox praised before placing his bow on his back. Removing his mask, Shikamaru rolled his eyes. Yeah, another mass murder of criminals, the teenager replied in an annoyed voice. It really helps paint us as the city's heroes and not just a bunch of criminals ourselves. Jason took off his helmet and sneered. Who cares what people think of us? We get the job done, and the city is safer. Naruto nodded and removed his mask. Jason's right, but we should get out on bail before the police or the Teen Titans show up. Yes, you're right, Artemis chimed in. We have enough to deal with thanks to Slade. Speaking of which, Naruto began as he started walking away. That idiot will probably contact us soon, oh boy. Jason muttered in a half-hearted tone. I can't wait to meet the boss. Well, you may meet him sooner than you think. Harley's voice announced through each of the outlaws' earpieces. Slade just sent a message requesting a meeting with the 4 of you. Naruto sighed and put his mask back on. Give me the location. An hour later, walking together, the 4 outlaws entered a closed shipping yard. One that was very crowded with crates of cargo and machinery. Honestly, it was the perfect place to set up an ambush. Or at least that's what Naruto and Jason thought. So when's Slade going to stop wasting our time and show up? Artemis groaned, leaning against a cargo container. Crossing his arms and standing tall, Naruto looked at his friend. Be alert and don't let your guard down. Rolling her eyes and removing herself from the container, Artemis held out her hands. It's not like we have anything to worry about. Slade wants to use us, not take us out. Jason scoffed at the girl's statement. You don't know. Besides, you never know if Dick and his friends are after us. What? The girl muttered in response, as she began to think Jason was more annoying than her leader. You 3 are all trouble. Shikamaru grumbled, as the young genius tried to block everyone out and focus. But make a well-oiled machine. Slade's soft voice praised, as all the outlaws turned to the man, who was slowly stepping out of the shadows. I take it you're Red X? Jason put a hand on his hip and sneered. I'm Red Hood now. Although with everything you've learned about my teammates, I'm surprised you didn't already know that. Slade chuckled and shook his head. You'd be surprised how much I know. However, what you call yourself is irrelevant. Let's get down to business. Taking a step forward, Naruto looked at Slade through his mask. since the blonde wasn't in the clearest frame of mind. All right, Slade, tell me where my sister is, straight to the point. Slade began, tossing a flash drive to Naruto, who caught it with ease. Your sister is dead. Naruto clenched his hands, grabbed his bow, and was about to attack. Slade, though, raised his hands and laughed. Don't rush it, kid. Don't forget this isn't the first time your sister has died. Slade explained before pointing ahead. That flash drive will explain how she died protecting the Teen Titans. It also has schematics for Titan's Tower. See, your sister was turned to stone, and the Titans kept her in an underground monument. Naruto tossed the flash drive to Shikamaru. So the Titans have what's left of Mito, Slade nodded. And you'll steal her, and then I'll resurrect her once more. That's why I asked you to add your newest addition to your team. He's stolen from the Teen Titans before. So there should be no problem taking Mito back. Naruto looked back at Jason. Is what he says true? Red Hood simply nodded. Yeah, Robin uses the same security as Batman. If you're familiar with him, it's easy to miss. That's how I originally stole Red X's costume without any of the Titans knowing. Naruto nodded, confident Jason would pull through. Okay, Slade, we'll get Mito back, but what next? Slade chuckled and turned his back on the outlaws. The flash drive has a rendezvous point where you will deliver Mito. Then I will revive the girl and deliver her to you. Shortly after, we will discuss your first task. Slade explained vaguely, as the man casually walked away. You know I really don't like any of this. Artemis shared with the group, while Naruto simply sighed. None of us do. The group leader began, looking at Shikamaru. Shikamaru, I want you to extract all the information from that flash drive. Then I want you and Jay to come up with a plan to get Mito back. Shikamaru nodded. I'll have something ready in the next few hours. Hey Naruto. Jason began, crossing his arms. You're dating Raven, right? Naruto nodded. Yes, I am. Why do you ask? Jason smiled and looked to the right, as the shipping yard they were in had a direct line of sight to Titan's Tower. So, have you ever visited your girlfriend's house? Batman's former partner asked. No, I haven't. Naruto admitted honestly. Well, you might want to. Jason began softly, holding out his hand. I mean, think about it, Naruto. You can infiltrate the tower and scout the area for any changes to security. Meanwhile, the Titans won't suspect a thing. They'll just think Raven's boyfriend is spending time with her. Artemis raised an eyebrow. That's actually a good point. I'm surprised you of all people thought of it. I suppose you're more than just a jerk. Jason looked at Artemis. Bite me, princess. The teenage vigilante retorted, while Artemis stuck out her tongue and blew a raspberry. Don't forget, I was trained by Batman and have already bested some of the Teen Titans. I'm full of uses. Naruto frowned, as he knew there would come a time when he would have to use his relationship with Raven to manipulate the girl. However, the idea seemed wrong to him. Well, you've been inside the tower, Jason. What would I have to look for? Actually, I have a better idea. Shikamaru suddenly spoke, making Jason bite his tongue. I could make you a small device that could hack into the Titan Tower mainframe if you were just too close to the tower. From there, with Jason's help, I could make breaking into Titan Tower easy. Jason rubbed his chin and mulled the idea over. That would work even better, and I know Dick would never see it coming. Then, Naruto, you should plan for Raven to invite you. In the meantime, Shikamaru and I will create a device to connect to the mainframe. Naruto nodded slowly, as Jason spoke of a solid plan. Okay, so what? Simple. Shikamaru replied with a smile. We planned a heist to steal Mito from under the Titan's nose. Since it would be easy to create a diversion somewhere to get them away from the tower, we could then, with the security system disabled, sneak in, steal Mito, and never get caught. Okay. Naruto began, slowly unbuttoning a bag and taking out his cell phone. I'll text Raven to come over. Can you have something ready for tomorrow? Shikamaru sneered. I could have something ready in an hour. The team's genius declared, with Crow running desperately. Raven did everything she could to escape the large shadow chasing her. However, no matter how fast she ran or how many corners she turned, Raven couldn't escape the large shadow. Then, to make matters worse, the heroine discovered she could no longer fly. So she was truly running out of options. Stay back! Raven yelled loudly, as she slowly tripped over a piece of debris and staggered forward. Then, landing on her forearms, Raven heard a loud laugh behind her. You cannot escape your destiny. A soft, deep voice shouted. Surrender me! No, no, stay back! Raven shouted before raising her arms above her head to protect herself. I won't be your tool, the voice laughed darkly, and Raven felt a burning sensation cover her body, forcing the girl to grind her teeth in agony. But you will! The voice declared with thunderous fury. You will surrender to your darkness, and then I will be free. No, I refuse! Raven screamed in hysteria, as she began to shake in pain. Fight all you want, except the darkness. The voice paused and unleashed a loud, victorious laugh. The darkness has already consumed you. There isn't a shred of light left in your child, and that heralds my return. No, you're lying! Raven replied with tears in her eyes, as she began to feel hopeless. However, through her closed eyes, a piercing white light began to shine upon her. Then, almost instantly, the pain and burning sensation faded, leaving Raven shocked. Hey, what's up? A familiar voice laughed, filling Raven with a reassuring aura. No need to be afraid. I'm here for you. Opening her eyes, Raven looked toward a blinding light, where the silhouette of a familiar figure was holding out his hand to Raven. This caused the heroine to smile and raise her hand, moving closer to the person. However, as her hand inched closer to the individual, the light began to grow brighter and brighter. Then, just as Raven was about to grab the hand, it stood up and got out of bed. She realized it was all a dream, and she was currently in her room. It was all just another nightmare. Raven began before massaging her face, but her eyes quickly noticed a bright light illuminating her dark bedroom. This made the hero look at her nightstand, where her cell phone was located. Then, using her powers, she floated the device into her hand and brushed back her hair. Smiling once, she noticed Naruto was calling her, as she now needed to hear his voice. Then, accepting the call, Raven brought the phone to her ear. Hey, Rachel. Naruto began in a nervous voice on the other end. I didn't wake you up, did I? Raven smiled and pulled her legs up to her chest. You did, but it's okay. I wasn't sleeping as well as I could have anyway. Is everything okay? Naruto asked almost instantly, showing his genuine care for the girl. It's nothing to worry about. Raven replied stubbornly, slowly twirling her hair. Was there something you needed? Are you okay? Naruto chuckled on the other end. I'm fine, but I had a sudden idea and wanted to ask you something. Raven raised an eyebrow and looked at her watch, noticing it was quite late. Well, let's hear it then. Well, I was wondering if I could come over to your house tomorrow and hang out. Naruto began nervously. Why would you want to come? I mean, I have no problem with that. It's just that you've never come before. Raven pointed out softly. Well, I was thinking I wanted to spend more time with you, but I can't lie. I have a hidden agenda. Naruto admitted in an honest tone, a small pause filling his voice. Look, I want the chance to be around your team. I know things have been difficult with you guys, and I'm particularly responsible for that. So I was hoping to get closer to your friends since I know they're important to you. Raven smiled at Naruto's response. You don't have to do that, especially after how they treated you. I know that. Naruto replied softly, as he began to feed on more of her lies. However, I want to prove that I'm better than someone who holds silly grudges. So, what do you say? Can I come tomorrow? Yes, you can. Raven declared in a happy tone, as she truly loved the young man on the other end of the phone. Awesome! Naruto shouted in victory before laughing to himself. But I need you to pick me up. After all, you kinda live on an island. Well, I could always buy a yacht or maybe a helicopter. Raven let a small bead of sweat roll down her forehead. I don't think I'll ever get used to you being filthy rich. The girl admitted with a soft giggle. But don't go ahead and buy anything. I'll pick you up and blow you away. Naruto laughed in response. Okay, that sounds good, but I might buy one anyway. It's embarrassing for a billionaire not to have a yacht or a helicopter. Raven shook her head. You're too much, but you still love me. Naruto replied almost instantly. Raven nodded and gripped the phone tightly. More than you'll ever know. The girl admitted honestly. You make me better than I am. You're my light, Naruto. On the other end, Naruto smiled. I could say the same about you. The blonde began before taking a long sigh. I love you, and I love you too, Naruto, but we should both get some sleep. Raven pointed out. Yeah, you're right. I'll see you tomorrow. Naruto replied before the call ended, leaving Raven alone with her thoughts. You'll never win, father, Crow began confidently, as the girls slowly lay down to sleep. Naruto is a light that eclipses your darkness, the girl finished, as she slowly closed her eyes and went back to sleep. The next day, with Naruto and Raven, in the main room of Titan's Tower, Naruto and Raven were cuddled up against each other on the Titan's large black couch. The pair were currently watching a popular cartoon, but watching wasn't the right term, considering Naruto was laughing hysterically and pointing at the large television screen. Meanwhile, Raven was fuming and glaring at her boyfriend. It's not that funny, Raven finally muttered in annoyance. Wiping a tear from his eye, Naruto continued to laugh to himself. This is bucking gold, the assassin shouted loudly, as Raven's eyebrow twitched. However, what was the show the young couple was watching? The answer was a Teen Titans parody show called Teen Titans Go, a show that created tiny cartoon versions of the famous heroes and placed them in ridiculous and humiliating situations. This, of course, was a show that didn't go down well with any member of the Titans, not even Beast Boy, who normally basked in the spotlight. Naruto, on the other hand, thought the show was great, mainly because it gave him mocking material to use against his girlfriend. This spectacle is degrading, Raven began in a dark, angry voice. I am the daughter of the darkest force in the universe, not a damn brony! Naruto laughed out loud, as he looked directly at Raven, the latter of whom looked like she was about to kill her boyfriend. Call me brony again, I dare you, Raven challenged, her eyes turning completely red. Not feeling intimidated in the least, Naruto looked at Raven with a big smile. He was about to continue joking, but a new voice on the television made him stop. Titans, you'll never stop me from stealing all the Pegasus figurines! As I, the Black Hood, am the ultimate pretty Pegasus fan! A cartoon and miniature version of Naruto's alter ego screamed hysterically, causing Naruto to look at the television with a crooked smile. Something wrong, Naruto? Raven asked, looking directly at her boyfriend. Naruto laughed, shaking his head. Haha, they even got that idiot Black Hood and made him a bucking brony too. This show is great. The vigilante began before looking to the side and gritting his teeth. Note to self, murder everyone who puts on that damned show. The assassin added to himself in thought. Raven rolled her eyes and blew out a breath. What? The girl muttered in annoyance. I can't wait until they add you as my boyfriend and make you a jerk too. Naruto turned to Raven and smiled. At that point, I'd buy her entire studio and burn it to the ground. The young billionaire replied, doing his best to suppress his true anger at the program, including its alter ego. But you'll let them continue as long as I'm the one who looks like an idiot, Raven pointed out with annoyance. Enough! Naruto began in a cocky voice, but his attention was suddenly drawn to the opening of the door behind him. The other 4 members of the team could be seen walking inside. Yo Ray, we're back, Cyborg announced, but stopped once he noticed Raven and Naruto cuddling on the couch. Naruto? Beast Boy tilted his head. What are you doing here? Naruto turned around, grinned from ear to ear, and pointed at the 4 heroes. Watching my new favorite show with Raven. They turned her into a bucking bro, the boy began, but suddenly found himself restrained by bonds made of darkness. I warned you to call me that, Raven began in a dark, demonic voice, one that made Naruto look straight at the girl without a single worry. Oh, that's right, Naruto replied emotionlessly, while the other members of the Teen Titans stared at the young couple with wide eyes. I'm just not afraid of my adorable little brony, Cyborg's jaw dropped. This guy's rocks, the half-man, half-robot muttered in shock. Beast Boy shook his head. How come you're not afraid of Raven? The green-skinned hero asked. Robin crossed her arms and looked at Naruto. Well, he's Harley Quinn's son, so he's probably crazy. Raven looked at Naruto, the latter of whom simply smiled broadly at the girl. However, after a few moments, the darkness around Naruto faded, and the girl sighed in defeat and resumed her place on the couch. You win, the half-demon girl admitted softly. What? Beast Boy and Cyborg shouted in unison, while Naruto simply kissed Raven on the cheek. It's not winning, you just love me too much, the vigilante declared in a flirtatious tone, one that made Raven blush. Yes, I do, the girl mumbled in response, while also feeling a little embarrassed that her teammates were watching their entire exchange. Starfire was practically bursting with joy at seeing the young couple showing affection for each other. So much so that she flew over and took a seat next to Raven. "My friend Raven, I'm so glad to see you so happy!" Starfire shouted before looking directly at Naruto. "You two are more adorable than a Flopnir." Naruto laughed nervously. Thanks?" Harley Quinn's son replied with a bit of confusion. However, the blonde quickly noticed that the couch was getting more crowded. Ever since Beast Boy transformed into a dog and jumped onto the cushion next to Naruto. Meanwhile, Cyborg jumped onto the couch and landed next to Beast Boy, while Robin simply walked calmly over to sit next to Starfire. Raven, seeing this, had a slight twitch in her eyebrow. "When did I ask you for to come here and sit with us?" Raven asked in a slightly angry voice. Returning to his human form and rubbing the back of his neck, Beast Boy looked directly at Raven. "Well, you see, huh?" Naruto laughed and patted the boy on the shoulder. "Raven, it's okay. This is your home. You can be wherever you want." Raven sighed and closed her eyes. "Yeah, okay," the girl murmured back. "Then we'll go." Naruto rolled his eyes and punched Raven in the forehead. "Be good." The blonde chuckled before giving everyone a friendly smile. "If I'm willing to be kind and make friends, then there's no reason why you shouldn't make up and forgive your friends." Raven sighed and crossed her arms, not really in the mood to forgive the Titans. However, at the same time, she couldn't argue with Naruto. "Fine." The hooded hero growled in annoyance, which made Naruto smile. "That's better," Naruto began, as he put his arm around Raven's shoulder. "But you know this is the first time I've had to talk to your team without being interrogated. So, what's up, Titans?" All the members of the Teen Titans looked at Naruto with surprised faces at how far he was willing to go to befriend them. Especially after what they had done to the young blonde not too long ago. However, what none of the young heroes knew was that Naruto was only extending his time in the tower to get what he really wanted. That, of course, being his sister Mito, or as they knew her, Terra. Later that night, "Will this work?" Naruto's voice began softly, as he rested his foot on the edge of a small, darkened, inflated boat. Meanwhile, his eyes looked up at the great Titan's tower that lit up the night sky. Shikamaru sneered and jumped off the boat toward the rocky shore of Titan Island. "Of course it'll work, Naruto. This is my plan and my technology, after all. I'll hold you to your word, you arrogant bastard." Naruto responded in annoyance, walking alongside Shikamaru and placing a hand to his ear. "Are the Titans enjoying their distraction?" Harley Quinn's voice laughed in Naruto's ear. "Yeah, Puddin', they're running all over town trying to deal with Ivy. I gotta thank my girl for coming and distracting us. We should have less than 30 minutes to do this." Jason spoke up, joining Naruto's side. "Dick has experience with poison ivy and should know how to deal with her. Which sucks because I was hoping to spray paint a bunch of dicks all over Dick's room," Artemis sneered. "Is that why you brought all the spray cans?" Jason looked back at the blonde woman and chuckled. "You know it. As much as I like the idea, Jay, we should focus on Mito." Naruto began, as he began walking towards the tower along with everyone else. Shikamaru watched Naruto stop at the tower's door and smiled before pressing a small device in his hand, causing the lights of Titan's tower to flicker for a brief moment. "And security is down," Shikamaru stated, looking at a small tablet in his hand. "Mito should be in an underground chamber accessed from the main elevator." Naruto nodded and pointed to Shikamaru and Artemis. "I want you both here and on guard. Jay and I will retrieve Mito, and then we can escape. You can count on us," Artemis replied, while Naruto nodded and entered the tower entrance with Jason. "So, do you know where we're headed, Jay?" Naruto asked in a simple voice as he walked towards the tower. However, when he heard the hiss of a spray can, the blonde assassin froze in place, and his eyebrow twitched. "Jay," Naruto began in an annoyed voice, as he watched his friend using a spray can on the wall. "Wait," Jason replied as he walked away with a proud smile, staring at the huge red letters that read "Dick Grayson is a huge hussy." "I have to sign my work." Naruto saw Jason spray "You wouldn't want to know" and sighed. "I should have taken Shika with me." "Nonsense," Jason replied in a cheerful voice, stuffing the spray can into his pocket and starting to walk. "I'm much more efficient, and to answer your question, there's a service elevator that leads to an underground monument located right over there." "Well, let's get moving," Naruto began, as he and Jason headed for the elevator. Then, without wasting any time, they knocked on the door to open it, and pressed a button for the underground floor. The duo spent a short period of time traveling down, but for Naruto it felt like an eternity, and his stomach began to turn. Considering he was only moments away from coming face to face with what remained of the sister he lost so many years ago, whose supposed disappearance was one of the main factors that sent Naruto down the path his life followed. However, now he was getting closer to regaining what he had lost, though when the elevator stopped and its doors opened, Naruto gulped and didn't move. Jason noticed this and patted his friend on the shoulder and smiled. "Halfway there, buddy," Batman's former partner began, as he stepped out of the elevator. Following Jason, Naruto looked around at the rather small cave they were in. He noticed the area was fairly brightly lit, and had a single metal pathway that ended at a pedestal with a large statue on top. However, once Naruto and Jason got closer, they saw that it wasn't a statue. It was in fact the petrified remains of Naruto's sister, Mito. A sight that made the blonde shudder and remove his mask, allowing Jason to see the streams of tears rolling down his leader's face. "It's really her," Naruto began, his voice cracking as he reached out and touched his sister's cold, stone hand. "I still had my doubts, but looking at her is like looking at old photos of Mom. It really is you, Mito. You were alive and alone for so many years, while that bastard Slade used you as a pawn. He won't get away with what he's done," Jason commented from behind, while Naruto nodded. "Yeah, I'm sure he won't," the Black Fox stated softly, while Jason simply stepped forward. "We can plan her disappearance later, Naruto," Jason began in a matter-of-fact tone, grabbing Mito. "For now, let's get your sister back." Grabbing his sister's other side, Naruto nodded and began to revive the remains. Meanwhile, his blue eyes stared into his sister's petrified face. "Your little sister is almost back, and I promise this time I'll keep you safe no matter what." Meeting point. Standing together around a large bubbling vat, the outlaws looked at Slade. The latter was attaching some harnesses to Mito and preparing her for the makeshift Lazarus pit, as Slade had brought part of it to this current location. Since he would never reveal the true location to a tool as powerful as a Lazarus pit, Artemis looked at Slade in confusion as she watched the man place a pair of circular handcuffs on each of Mito's wrists. "What's he doing?" the woman in the group asked softly. "Mito has powers like me," Naruto began in a simple voice, watching the mercenary work on preparing his sister for her revival. "They're most likely energy-dampening cuffs to contain Mito in case of a possible outburst. People revived with a Lazarus pit tend to go wild and attack everything in sight for a while." Jason spoke in an emotionless voice, digging his hands deep into his pockets. "Believe me, I should know. Annoying," Shikamaru grumbled. "Well, let's get this show on the road." Slade spoke as he walked over to a console and began dropping Mito into the tank, completely submerging the girl in the liquid and hiding her from everyone's sight. Naruto watched with bated breath as he made his way to the final stretch of retrieving his twin sister. However, all that was left to do was let the Lazarus Pit's mystical properties do their work. Then, finally, after 11 years, he was able to see his precious sister once more. "That should do it," Slade commented slowly, as he pulled a lever and the harness holding Mito began to rise from the shaft. All the outlaws looked on with different expressions, while Mito, now freed from her petrified state, lay inert and unconscious in the harness that slowly lifted her into the air. Her appearance hadn't changed since the fateful day she died saving the Teen Titans. "Myth!" Naruto shouted at the top of his lungs before running to his sister's side. Slade smiled and lowered Mito to Naruto. Then, as he watched the young vigilante stare at the girl, he laughed and turned his back on her. "I'll give you a few days to help Mito recover. After that, I'll be in touch for your first real assignment." Naruto didn't respond to Slade's retreating form. Instead, Naruto kept his complete focus on getting Mito out of the harness she was in, allowing the blonde to pull his twin closer to his body and bury his head in her long, messy hair. "Big brother is here, Mito," Naruto whispered softly into Mito's ear, earning a slight nod from her. "And I won't let anything happen to you ever again." Shikamaru, Artemis, and Jason looked at the twins with small smiles, happy that their friend could be reunited with his sister. However, those smiles quickly turned into looks of astonishment. Considering that, Mito's eyes quickly opened, and cerulean eyes met her identical pair. The newly revived girl suddenly wrapped her hands around Naruto's neck and began squeezing the life out of the blonde. "Naruto!" Artemis screamed in fear, taking a step forward and grabbing her bow. Even Shikamaru started to extend his shadow, but they were both stopped by Jason holding out his hand. "Hold on," Little Red Riding Hood ordered sternly. "Let Naruto handle this. He has to catch her." Artemis frowned and lowered her bow, while Shikamaru remembered his shadow. Then, with furrowed brows, they both watched their leader being slowly strangled by his sister. However, Naruto wasn't weak by any means and quickly placed his hands on Mito's wrists and pulled on the girl's grip to release it. "Mito, it's me, Naruto, your brother!" Naruto shouted loudly, as he looked into his sister's eyes, noticing that the girl's eyes tightened in anguish before she let out a loud and pain-filled gasp. Naruto gritted his teeth as Mito began to thrash about. He knew he couldn't give up now, though, and needed to keep trying to reach his sister. "My name is Terra," Mito growled in a pained voice that shocked everyone listening. "That's the name Slade gave you," Naruto replied without missing a beat. "Your name is Mito Namikaze, and Slade kidnapped and brainwashed you. Remember who you really are." Just hearing Slade's name was enough to send Mito into a fit of hysteria and pain. "Slade!" The girl shrieked in rage, trying her best to free herself from Naruto's grasp. "Mito, calm down!" Naruto began loudly, gritting his teeth. "You need to get a grip on yourself and remember who you are." "Rah!" Mito screamed loudly, as she began to grow more restless and aggressive, showing that the girl was getting further and further away from remembering who she was. All the outlaws watched Naruto fight his sister with a frown, but they were all surprised when a new figure passed by each of them. One that approached Naruto and Mito and wrapped itself around the two. "My precious girl," Harley Quinn's voice spoke, causing Mito to freeze in place. Meanwhile, Gotham's queen of crime held tightly to her two children. "Mommy's here, Puddin', and I promise I'll put an end to this nightmare they've put you through." Naruto shuddered, as even he was hit by a wave of familiarity. Considering that the woman holding him and speaking to him wasn't Harley Quinn the criminal, but his mother, Harleen Namikaze. Mito trembled in her mother's arms, her voice, her scent, and her smile all familiar. In fact, slowly, the youngest member of the Namikaze family began to feel her head throbbing, as long-suppressed memories began to resurface. "Mom?" Mito began in a confused voice. Almost choking on her words, Harley nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. "Yes, Puddin', it's me. Your mommy and brother are here too, big brother?" Mito spoke in a low voice, making Naruto's eyes water. "Yes, I'm my little sister," Naruto replied happily, grinning from ear to ear. "Do you remember who you are? I'm Mito Namikaze, but—" He paused and put his hands to his head, recalling his time as Slade's apprentice, and even more so his time with the Teen Titans. "I'm also Terra." Harley stepped back and smiled at the girl. "It's okay, honey. What matters is that you remember who your family is and that we're here for you." "Mom," Mito murmured, her face streaming with tears. "I miss you so much." Harley allowed the girl to sink into her chest and sob. Then, stroking her daughter's hair, the infamous criminal smiled. "You've grown into a beautiful young woman, Mito. I'm sure your father would agree." Stepping back and looking at her mother, Mito began rubbing the tears from her eyes. "I'm so glad to see you too, but can someone tell me what's going on?" "Well, what do you remember?" Naruto asked, causing his twin to look directly at him. I have vague memories of the party when we were 5. Mito explained in a frustrated voice, clutching her head. "From then on, it's all a blur. I remember Slade raising me and training me for a few years. Then I joined and betrayed the Teen Titans, and then I betrayed Slade." Naruto nodded and sighed before rubbing the back of his neck and standing up. "Well, 11 years ago, you and Dad were killed at that party. From what I gathered, Slade stole your body and brought you back to life and brainwashed you into believing you were a girl named Terra. From then on, you lived your life before sacrificing yourself to save the Teen Titans. But I'm alive now," Mito pointed out. "How am I alive anyway?" Short version, a mystical pool called the Lazarus Pit. Long story short, Slade is blackmailing me and forcing me and my team to work for him. Part of the deal involves reviving him so I can bring him onto my team. "Wait, you're involved with Slade?" Mito began in a confused voice, looking between her brother and mother. "What have you been doing for the past 15 years? From my memories of living as Terra, I know Mom became a crime boss, but I don't know anything about you, Naruto." "Well, after your death, Dad's former mentor, Ra's al Ghul, took me in as a member of the League of Assassins," Naruto explained, making Mito's eyes widen. Are you a member of the League? Mito asked in a surprised voice. Ex-member, to be exact. Roz let me go after the people who were responsible for what happened to you and Dad. I'm surprised you know about the League. Naruto admitted. Slade told me about them a couple of times. Mito explained in a matter-of-fact tone. Makes sense. Naruto replied in a casual voice. But I spent 11 years in the League, and when I turned 16 I went on a manhunt to avenge you and Dad. I eventually landed in Jump City and formed a small, elite team called the Outlaws. We're a vigilante group, but Slade knows my true identity along with the truth behind what happened to you and Dad. So I work for him until I get what I want. After that, I'll take him out like any other person I've ever killed. That bastard will pay for what he did to our family. Harley added in a sharp tone that Mito had never heard from her mother, allowing her to see how the woman had truly changed over the past 11 years. Mito shuddered as she finally saw how different her brother and mother had become over the past 11 years. One had become a ruthless killing machine, while the other was a vicious crime boss. So Mom's a crime boss and you're a former vigilante assassin. Meanwhile, Slade has you under his influence because of the information he has. Mito summarized, causing Naruto to nod. That's all. Naruto began, digging his hands into his pockets. You forgot to mention your girlfriend Puddin. Harley spoke in a mocking voice, causing Naruto to turn bright red and look to the side. That's not important information. Naruto muttered in an embarrassed voice. Mito raised an eyebrow and laughed softly. So the older brother has a girlfriend? Well, who is she? The twin asked, glancing over her shoulder. I take it that's your team over there? You and that blonde girl striking up a romance? No way! Naruto and Artemis shouted at the same time, which made Mito laugh. Well, who is it then? Mito asked with interest, wanting to learn as much as possible about her long-lost brother. I'm sure it's not anyone you know. Oh, I wouldn't be so sure about that. Harley began in a sing-song voice, while she smiled widely. You were a teen titan with her, after all. Both twins paled at the same time and looked at each other. Oh God, why is he making that face? Naruto thought in dread. Oh, please be star, hell anyone but her. Mito thought with the same amount of dread as her brother, as her thoughts turned to a certain hooded titan. Your brother is dating Raven! Harley yelled in a giddy voice. Oh Buck, it's her! Mito screamed loudly, while Naruto's jaw dropped. What's that supposed to mean? Naruto yelled back. Mito sighed and rubbed her head. Well, Ray and I never saw eye to eye. I mean, we kinda got along towards the end, but after the whole double-crossing thing, I think she probably hates me again. Although technically, as far as she knows, I'm dead. Wait. She knows I'm alive? How close are you to the Titans? Raven knows me as Naruto Namikaze and doesn't know about my alter ego Black Fox. Technically I'm dating my enemy, since the Titans have been trying to arrest me since I arrived in Jump City. The 11-year vendetta is pretty illegal. Mito shook her head at her brother's behavior. Despite being 11 years old and everything he'd been through, there was still some of that old nonsense she knew. Well, you mentioned adding me to your team. Mito spoke up, wanting to steer the conversation away from Raven and the rest of her former team. I won't lie to you, Naruto. I'm still really confused and I'm trying my best to process everything. However, I want you to know that I'll be by your side no matter what. I've always been lost in life, and learning from what you've told me, I can understand why. I'm ready to move on with my life and get my family back. Naruto smiled and put an arm around Mito's shoulder. Well, sis, we have a lot of work ahead of us, but let me introduce you to my friends and our team. The Outlaws, Shikamaru Nara, also known as Shadow Man. Naruto began, pointing at the teenager. He makes all of our technology, and he's a genius. Shikamaru smiled and crossed his arms. Nice to meet you, Mito. I hope you're not as troublesome as your brother. Rolling his eyes, Naruto moved his hand to the next person. Artemis Croc, also known as Vixen. She's a girl from Gotham like us, and she's my partner. I'm not your bucking partner. We're a team. Artemis began before scoffing loudly. But it's nice to meet you, Mito. You don't know how happy I am to add another girl to this team. And last but not least, Jason Todd, also known as Red Hood. Naruto introduced, causing Jason to nod. Welcome to Team Myth. Jason greeted in a cheerful tone. It's a pleasure to meet you all, Mito said, scratching his head. What's next? Naruto grinned from ear to ear. How about I show you my bookstore? Chapter 12. The First Mission. With Naruto standing outside his bookstore with a calm expression, Naruto glanced out of the corner of his eye at his twin sister. The latter simply stared at the store sign with emotions Naruto couldn't properly gauge. Though considering his sister was resurrected for the second time, Naruto figured there was quite a bit on her mind at the moment. However, after a brief moment of remaining in the dark, Naruto finally grew tired of the silence. So what do you think? The older of the pair asked, their eyes slowly glancing at each other. It's sweet, but I don't really feel like Mito anymore. I mean, I have all my memories from when we were kids, and I know I'm Mito Namikaze without a doubt. It's just, you've been called Terra for so long that it's become your true identity. Though I'd argue even that's too simple, as your Mito and Terra identities are warring with each other, and you barely know who you really are anymore. Are you the sweet little girl who lost her family? Or the trained tool made by Slade Wilson? You're absolutely right, but how do you know all that? Naruto simply stared forward and frowned. You're not the only one struggling to remember who you are. Personally, I don't even know who I am anymore. Am I Naruto Namikaze, a boy seeking to avenge his family? Or am I Thalab, an assassin who kills in the wild? Perhaps I'm the Black Fox, another vigilante who wants to make his own views on justice known regarding the corruption in this world? So believe me when I say that I understand what you're going through. I see. The younger twin murmured softly, slowly looking down at the concrete sidewalk. Well, if anything, I know one thing. We're twins, and that's a bond that can't be broken and an identity we can never lose. So, for now, why don't we try being Terra and Naruto Quinn? So you want to go by Terra along with Mom's criminal personality? Why not? You've been doing it for a while. Besides, like I said before, I feel more like Terra than Mito. So why not try something new? Naruto gave a small smile and put his arm around Terra's shoulder. As long as I have my little sister, I'll do anything. A laughing Terra leaned toward her brother. I always hated it when you called me your little sister. After all, you're only 2 minutes older, but it's comforting to see that some things really haven't changed. Yes. Naruto replied softly, as he walked forward and opened the shop door. But why don't we go inside and join everyone else? Okay. Terra began, as she was the first of the twins to enter the store, but found nothing but books waiting for her. So this is your base of operations? Entering the store and closing the door behind him, Naruto shrugged. Kinda, this is more of my cover story as Naruto Quinn, the teenager in hiding. Upstairs is a large housing complex where everyone lives, but there's a hidden elevator in the main office that leads to our actual base of operations. It's quite convenient to have the three of you so close together. Terra commented, her voice impressed. You seem to know how to manage things quite well. Naruto laughed and waved goodbye to his sister, leading the girl toward his hidden elevator. You can thank Mom for all this. After all, this was her doing, not mine. Her amount of planning and foresight proves why she's Gotham's biggest crime boss. The woman is so smart it's frightening at times. Terra laughed and entered the hidden elevator with her brother. Well, Mom and Dad were always very smart, but it seems that family intelligence skipped you and me just a little. As he rode down the elevator, Naruto shrugged. To be fair, most kids grew up learning their multiplication tables and how to spell. I grew up learning how many ways you can kill someone with a box cutter. The answers are 13, by the way, 14 if you count the technicalities. Terra sighed and simply nodded. My education focused primarily on espionage and combat. So I never had the opportunity to expand my knowledge or practice problem-solving skills outside of figuring out how to take out an enemy quickly. Our lives really took some pretty drastic turns, but they got us to where we are today. So I can't complain too much, as it could always be worse. That's a pretty interesting perspective on how our lives have turned out. Here I thought I'd despise the hand we've been dealt so far. Naruto crossed his arms and closed his eyes. I'm by no means okay with how our lives have turned out, but I don't like dwelling on the what-ifs of life. Our dad died all those years ago and broke our mom, turned me into a killing machine, and you were brainwashed and turned into a spy for being crazy. Despite that, I can't say our lives would have been better if that night had never happened. What I can say is that from this moment on, we can control our future and ensure that we are never in someone else's hands. We will forge our own path on our terms and no one else's. Terra looked at her brother in amazement, admiring his determination to keep going. However, when the elevator stopped, Both twins were met with a sight of their team and their mother. They were all scattered around the room at different stations, but all had their eyes on the two of them. Pudding cups! Took you long enough! Harley scolded in a rather upbeat tone. Here I thought you two went off and got into some trouble. I wanted to show Terra around and have some personal time with my little sister. Naruto replied in a casual voice. So you're going to stop by Terra now? Harley chirped in an interested tone. Yes, I hope you agree with that. Harley walked forward and hugged her daughter. I don't care what you call yourself. No matter what you are, my little pudding cup, and that never changes. I'll always love you no matter what. Terra smiled and hugged her mother back. Thanks, Mom. I love you too. Naruto smiled at that moment among his family. But the situation was short-lived when Shikamaru cleared his throat. This is great and all, but we should focus. We now have the equipment Slade wanted us to put together. However, now we have to wait for him to get back to us about what he really wants from us. Which means we have some time to try and think of countermeasures against him. Shika's right. Naruto murmured softly, crossing his arms. That bastard has too many cards in his favor right now, and we don't know what he's after. We can't act rashly, as any ill-conceived thoughts or plans could backfire on us. So what are you thinking, Shika? Artemis asked. I'm still working on a plan. The teenager admitted. Well, I know what we need to do. Harley spoke up, which turned all eyes on her. That being that, for now you'll train and wait for Slade's orders. I mean, it's pretty simple when you think about it. Slade has the 5 of you in a pretty tight corner, and we don't know his objective, which means we're dealing with a huge lack of information. However, once we know what he's after, we can better formulate our plans around his. Then, the moment he lets his guard down, we take him down. So we play it cool until we can turn the odds in our favor? I'm fine with that, Jason admitted. Naruto nodded. It's the best course of action, and we're a newly formed team. So some training would benefit us greatly. Especially since Terra isn't familiar with any of our skill sets. What do you think little sister is? Terra frowned. I'm not Slade's biggest fan, and I don't have to tell you why. I'm certainly not excited about working for him again. But if doing so ends in his downfall, well, then I'm all for it, and I'll use my powers to help you the best I can. Naruto grinned widely and stuffed his hands in his pockets. I'm glad to hear that, sister, and I'm excited to practice some sibling combos with our powers. Terra seemed genuinely surprised by her brother. Wait, you have powers too? I didn't know you had powers. I thought I was the only one. Harley laughed and rolled her eyes. Pudding Cup, you shouldn't be so surprised that your twin has powers too. You both inherited your father's metagene, and ever since you were little, you and Naruto showed signs of powers. Boy, was that a pain too! Naruto was always losing his temper and cutting out the power in the house. Then there was the time you threw a tantrum over a toy and caused a sinkhole in the middle of a parking lot. You wouldn't believe how hard that was for you and me. Dad, keep your powers hidden from everyone, including yourselves. I mean, we were going to tell you when you were a little older, but you never got the chance. I never knew. Terra murmured softly, looking at her brother. Yeah, well, surprise. I'm not like you, though. My powers only control wind and electricity, not earth. Can you control them? Terra asked. Naruto laughed and rubbed the back of his neck. Yeah, I'm starting to understand them, but that's only with Shika's help. When I started, I sucked. That's how I was. Harley laughed and brought her cell phone up to her face. Well, this has been wonderful, but Ivy finally escaped from the Titans and wants to reunite. So I'm going to check on her. I'll be back later, but does anyone need anything while I'm gone? Naruto crossed his arms. Not having my mom arrested while I'm gone is a good request. Harley let out a breath and laughed. Oh, I'm not going to cause any trouble, Puddin'. Have some faith in your hot young mom. Well, then it would be lots of fun having your little girlfriend chasing me around. Oh, for the love of God, please don't. Naruto groaned in exhaustion. I really want to fly under the radar with the Titans, which is hard enough being your son and dating Raven. Besides, things are going to get even more tense with Terra disappearing from her tower. Besides, Dick's going to be really nervous about the secret message I left him. Jason laughed out loud, slapping his leg. And don't get me started on that, you really had to leave something out to make fun of him, didn't you? Of course. Artemis raised an eyebrow in confusion. Wait, what did the jerk do? Jason chuckled and stood up. Well, princess, let's just say I used my limited knowledge of Dick's true identity to have a little fun. Titan's Tower. Robin was practically shaking with anger as his team surrounded him. However, his fellow Titans had very different emotions and expressions. Cyborg, along with Beast Boy, were quite surprised and a little nervous. Starfire had a rather worried expression on her face and had most of her attention directed at Robin. Finally, Raven showed no emotions or reactions, but that was quite normal for the girl. Although the scene that had the team of young heroes in such a state was, of course, the message Jason had left for Robin. A message that was not only an insult, but also directly called the teenager by name and left no indication of who left it. Cyborg, what do the security cameras show? Robin asked in a low, frustrated voice, as the mechanical teenager began writing on his arm. Nothing, Rob. Everything went dark a few hours ago and hasn't rebooted since. Although it seems like whoever shut down our system did it extremely easily. I mean, there's no evidence of any kind of outside interference. Whoever did this hacked into our systems without doing much hacking at all. Beast Boy, you and Raven search the tower and see if our intruders have done anything. Star, I want you to fly around the island and see if you see anything. Robin instructed in a firm voice. Beast Boy transformed into a bloodhound and began sniffing the area, while Raven simply sank into the wall with her abilities. Starfire, on the other hand, lingered for a second, as she realized her leader was furious. She wanted to comfort the boy, but knew that at that moment the best thing she could do was search the island. So, hanging her head in defeat, she flew off to fly around the tower. Left alone, Cyborg continued tapping on the computer built into his arm, while Robin exhausted herself by using all her detective skills on the message. She did her best to figure out who did this and for what purpose. I know you're upset, Rob. I mean, whoever did this broke into our house and called you by your real name. Cyborg began, his voice serious. But we can't lose our minds and act irresponsibly. We already did it with Raven's boyfriend, and she still hasn't forgiven us. That's right. You said our system was practically hacked from the inside. Well, who was the only person outside of our team who had recently been in the tower? Robin began, causing Cyborg to frown. Rob, I see where you're going with this and you should stop right now. Ray is just now slowly starting to come back to us after we arrested her boyfriend, which resulted in him revealing her true identity to the world. Do this again and push her away for good. It just makes sense. No, Rob, no, he doesn't. Just leave him and leave the guy alone. But it's Harley Quinn. What? He's Harley Quinn's son? Raven's cold, emotionless voice pierced the air, resulting in Cyborg and Robin turning to the teenager in shock as he slowly approached both boys. Raven, huh? Robin began slowly, as the tension in the air began to rise. Go ahead, Robin, say it. The hooded heroine challenged him, her eyes momentarily flashing red for a millisecond. Friends, I didn't find anything. Starfire stated in a slow, slurred voice, returning to the unfolding scene. Friends, something's wrong. Yes, something is wrong, and it's the fault of all your leaders. Raven began, her voice laced with venom. And I've had enough. I'm Dude! Beast Boy yelled in a desperate voice, which momentarily stopped the potential outburst. Meanwhile, everyone turned to see the green teen running toward the group. Guys, it's Terra! At that moment, the mood shifted, and everyone looked at Beast Boy in confusion. He obviously seemed to be in complete disarray and obviously needed a moment to compose himself. What's wrong, BB? Cyborg asked in a calm voice. She's gone, guys! Terra's gone! Beast Boy shouted, clenching his fists. I don't know who, but someone took Terra from us. Each member of the Titans was too stunned to even speak. First, their city was attacked by the Gotham villain Poison Ivy, which was bizarre. However, now they had learned that the remains of one of their former members had been stolen. A series of events that left the team completely silent and trembling. Damn! Beast Boy finally yelled, as he collapsed to the ground and began to thrash the floor. I lost her again, Beast Boy. Raven murmured softly, letting go of her anger for a moment and placing a firm, comforting hand on it. I'm sorry, Outlaw Headquarters, the next day. So how long are they going to keep this up? Terra asked in bewilderment, watching her twin and Jason exchange blows in hand-to-hand combat. Lazily flipping through a magazine and paying no attention to his teammates, Artemis shrugged. Who knows? All those two meatheads do is work out and train. I try to avoid getting caught up in their antics. It's best if you just sit back and ignore them." Hearing a loud impact followed by a grunt of pain, Terra kept his eyes on Artemis. "But shouldn't we be training too? I mean, we have to be in good shape." "You're right, but I won't be training with those two anytime soon. They're literally the worst. Besides, I thought you might want to find ways to get out of this place. Being a dead girl twice your age. I really can't walk around in public. If I were you, I'd go crazy from boredom." Terra nodded. "Basically, being under unofficial house arrest has been pretty annoying. I won't lie, but as someone who's died twice, it's better than being dead." Glancing at her magazine and Shikamaru, who was silently typing on a computer, Artemis smiled. "Well, I saw Shika making you a new costume. So at least when we go out as a team, you'll have some freedom." "Yes, you're right, but even with a mask, once people see my powers in public, some will start to suspect I'm alive. Especially the Titans if they realize I'm no longer in their little memorial." Artemis nodded. "Yes, that's true. Has Naruto mentioned anything to Raven about your disappearance?" "No, she hasn't mentioned anything to Naruto, and he can't really ask her since that would raise some questions. So as of now we don't know if they've noticed I'm no longer in the tower." "Yeah, I guess that puts us in an awkward position. Of course, this resurrection thing isn't all it's cracked up to be." Both blondes shared a cheerful laugh, but that was short-lived as Shikamaru stood up. "Guys, I just got a text from Slade." Naruto stopped his training with Jason, grabbed a towel to wipe off his sweat, and approached Shikamaru. "What's the message?" "It's a video recording," the team's genius explained. "Well, let's play," Jason proposed, as the entire team began to gather around Shikamaru. Yeah, I'm on it," Shikamaru grumbled before clicking the play button, resulting in a video of Slade appearing on the monitor. "I think I've given you 5 enough time to come to your senses. So now it's time for you to start being useful to me." Slade began slowly, causing most of the group to frown in anger. "Your mission is very simple. I want the 5 of you to travel to Metropolis City, where one Dr. Anthony Evo has set up his lab. You are to infiltrate the lab, steal his research, destroy his lab, and kill him. You have 3 days, and failure will result in good. I'm sure the 5 of you know what I'm capable of. Act as I expect you to, and I will share more of what I know about those responsible for that night 11 years ago." With that, the video cut out and the group remained silent for a moment, but when Naruto looked at the computer, he finally turned his body and walked towards his suit. "Let's get the team ready," the blonde leader began, reaching for his suit. "We'll complete Slade's little task, as finding the research he wants will help us discover his endgame and how to take him down." Jason walked over to his own team and sighed. "We also better prepare for the worst. After all, Metropolis is the big guy on the blue turf." Shikamaru sighed and stood up. "I've already formulated 7 alternative plans to deal with him if the situation calls for it." Artemis laughed and grabbed her bow and quiver. "Always the scheming Shika, but I guess it never hurts to be prepared. It's troublesome, but someone has to do it." Shikamaru began, touching a wrist device. A small box opened for everyone to see. "It's a good thing I also plan to finish Terra's new uniform as soon as possible." Looking at the newly designed suit, Terra smiled softly and looked at her team. "Let's do this, outlaws." There was a nod of agreement from the rest of the team, and everyone silently began gathering their gear, leaving Naruto alone with his own thoughts as his eyes focused on his sword. "Metropolis, huh?" the blonde thought to himself, as he felt a pit in his stomach slowly grow. "I never thought I'd go back there." With Crow groaning in annoyance, Raven rolled onto her side and shifted in her blankets, shifting in a way that shifted her upper body and caused her hair to fall over her face. Normally, Raven wouldn't pay attention to movements like these, but something felt off. So moving up, Raven brought a hand to her hair and realized that the length now cascaded past her shoulders and overlapped her breasts, the latter of which looked almost a cup size larger than before. Both clear signs that something wasn't right with Raven. "What?" Raven muttered, as she finally began to take stock of her surroundings. She realized she was no longer inside her room at Titan's Tower. Instead, Raven was in what appeared to be a rather plain-looking bed with a window covered by curtains. However, a small amount of sunlight peeked through the edges. "Azarath, Metrian, Synthos!" Raven sang softly, causing her powers to draw back the curtains and reveal a city on the other side of the window. "Well, at least my powers are functioning normally," Now, with the light fully illuminating the bedroom, Raven could notice another key feature of her surroundings. The bed she was in had an obvious spot for a second person, which was currently empty. This sent shivers down Raven's spine as she began to think about the endless scenarios this could entail. What's going on and where am I? Raven murmured softly, as she slipped out of bed and walked over to the window. Then, as she got closer, her eyes widened in shock when she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the window, noticing that she was dressed in an oversized white shirt covering her body along with a pair of black shorts. However, it wasn't her clothing that caused alarm. Instead, it was her body, which bore no resemblance to the 16-year-old version of her. Not only had Raven's hair and breasts grown, but her entire body from head to toe more closely resembled a woman approaching 30. Is that a wrinkle? Raven cried out in shock, causing her to cover her mouth. Since she was trying to remain silent due to her situation, though to Raven's surprise, a loud female laugh sounded in the distance. Looks like it's already starting, Dad, the voice proclaimed, while another, somewhat familiar voice spoke up. Now be nice. You know how scared she is. Then the voice became a little quieter, almost as if the man speaking didn't want Raven to hear him. 3 or birthday? The two voices then burst into laughter, which of course caused Raven to become confused. So, moving forward with confidence and curiosity, Raven left the bedroom and quickly found herself heading towards a rather large loft, where she could see a rather muscular blonde sitting at a fully set breakfast table with a much smaller blonde-haired girl. However, Raven instantly knew who the man at the table was. And Naruto? Raven muttered in shock, as she stared at the adult version of her boyfriend. He looked older with his short, spiky hair and small stubble, while his muscles seemed much bigger and more defined than before. Good morning, pretty bird. Naruto greeted in a voice that made Raven's heart skip a beat. Before she could gather her thoughts, though, Naruto stood up and leaned in to plant a kiss on her lips. Disgusting! Get a bucking room, you two! The young woman spat, causing Naruto to groan and turn to the girl. Harlan Pamela Quinn, you know better than to repeat the words your grandmother shares with you. If you don't stop, I won't allow you to visit her or your godmother for a whole month. Naruto scolded, while pointing at the girl who was now visibly pouting. That's not fair. Big Har and Aunt Ivy are way more fun than you two. In fact, you let me do things. On one hand, you're both criminals, and two, I'm still angry that you were named without your mother's or my permission. Harlan rolled her eyes. Dad, that was 12 years ago, and it wasn't her fault. I came in early, you were out with important things, and Mom got knocked out to give birth. Big Har and Aunt Ivy did what they had to do as the only ones they're ready to name me. They could have waited for your mother or me to name you. Man, you still hold a grudge against your own mother all these years later. Even though my own mother, also known as your wife, told me she was okay with me being appointed. Harlan revealed, causing Naruto to twitch. But let's change the subject. Are you still going to take me to target practice? Naruto grumbled and crossed his arms. That depends on your mom. After all, she might have plans for the three of us. Clapping and smiling broadly, Harlan looked at Raven with wide eyes. The latter was a little bewildered. Please, Mom, can Dad and I get out of some target practice? I promise we won't be long and we'll be back in time to do any fun family stuff you have planned, like meditation or whatever. Wait, what do you mean, shoot? I thought you hated guns. Raven stopped and pointed directly at Naruto, knowing from her boyfriend's past that he didn't like guns due to the shooting that tore his family apart. Naruto looked visually confused. I don't like guns, but Harlan isn't talking about that. You know that, right? Raven remained silent, but her supposed daughter laughed. Yeah, Mom, what's wrong? You know Dad and I always shoot bows, and if you let me go today's the day I'll beat you up, man. Being pulled away from Raven, Naruto sneered. Come on, you're decades away from taking out your old man with a bow. How many times have I shot you by now? That's just because you're super old and sneaky. Harlan argued loudly, causing both father and daughter to look at each other. I don't cheat. You're a sore loser like your grandma. Any cheater, sore loser, cheating, loser. Raven, watching the back and forth, stepped back and began to laugh, enjoying the small exchange between the pair. The latter stopped insulting each other and turned to Raven. Hey, what's so funny, Mom? Harlan asked with a cheerful laugh. Raven waved her hands and smiled. I'm happy, that's all. Well, you shouldn't be. Harlan began, as 4 red eyes and a crooked smile appeared on her face. After all, you'll never get the happiness you want. Raven took a step back in fear, but Naruto stopped her, firmly grabbing her arms. Meanwhile, his demonic grin and red eyes stared directly into hers. I'll take everything from you, Naruto declared, but his voice wasn't his own. I'll take your dreams, your happiness, and your future. Your only purpose for existing is to serve me. No, get away from me! Get away! Raven screamed defiantly, but found herself completely trapped. Stop running away from your destiny, daughter, and play the role you were born to play. No! Raven screamed before forcing her eyes shut. Then, thrashing, she struggled and tried to resist the pressure that was slowly suffocating her. You won't defy me much longer, kid. I'll break you and everything around you very soon. With that, the voice faded and the pressure on Raven lifted. It took a shallow breath for the teen to jerk up in a fit. She realized she was now awake and inside her room inside Titan's tower. It was just another nightmare, Raven told herself, as she was practically shaking with fear. But this time it felt more real than before. Slowly pulling her legs up to her chest, Raven tried to calm herself. However, she was an absolute mess and couldn't even steady her breathing. So she moved to her side and picked up her cell phone. She noticed it was 6 in the morning, but she wasn't trying to tell the time. No, instead, she wanted to hear the voice of the one person she knew could help her. However, when Raven dialed Naruto's cell phone number, she waited silently only for it to eventually go to voicemail. Considering that Naruto didn't answer her call, which was strange considering the boy always answered the phone no matter the circumstances. Though this did cause Raven to flip through her phone and notice a number she had never seen before. So, with a small hint of curiosity, Raven pressed the number, which was titled Mom. Then, to Raven's surprise, the phone answered instantly, as a voice she knew immediately spoke. Doll, you finally decided to call. I'm so glad, Harley? Did you put your number in my phone? You know it. Harley laughed on the other end of the line. Call me Mom, too. After all, one day you'll marry my little pudding, I know it. Raven was a little embarrassed by Harley's audacity, but it helped distract her nerves. Well, speaking of Naruto, I tried to get in touch with him a moment ago, but he didn't answer? That's exactly what I expected. Seeing as Puddin left for an important business meeting earlier for the family business, I think he forgot his phone in his haste. Harley lied in a rather simple voice, as that was the cover story for Naruto's mission to Slade. You don't need anything, do you, honey? No, I just wanted to talk to Naruto about some things, Raven admitted dryly. Harley hummed on the other end. You sound like a depressed doll. You know I'm still in town, so why don't we meet for lunch and you can talk to me? Oh, that's not necessary. Of course it is. I'll text you the time and place, and we'll have a great time, Harley declared loudly, giggling to herself. We can talk about fun things like baby names for my grandchildren. Then, with no chance to argue, Harley hung up, leaving Raven speechless. Naruto, I don't know what you're doing, but I think I just had a date with your mom.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.